Your Honor, this is case number 416 on the calendar in the matter of Houston versus Pierce. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Thank you, Bert.
You're quite welcome, Judge.
You're not involved with this case yet, perhaps as a witness. Is that right? Why don't you have a seat?
Okay.
And neither are you, so why don't you have a seat?
Okay.
Mr. Houston, the defendant was a friend of yours.
Yep.
You had been arrested for domestic violence, and according to your complaint, called the defendant and asked for his help. And according to you, you said to him, you can take my rifle and hold it as collateral for some money that I'm going to give you for being such a good friend.
Yep.
That's not true.
Just a second. Then you got out of jail, and he refuses to return the rifle to you, despite the fact that you offered them $100 for it.
Yep.
You want the rifle back.
Yes, ma'am.
Defendant says that the rifle was given to him as a gift.
That's right.
And in addition, he is counterclaiming for some nonsense about fluorescent light bulb.
He spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time.
Whatever. We'll get there.
It's not nonsense, Your Honor.
Mr. Houston, when were you arrested, sir?
The first time I was arrested was August 4th, and that got dismissed and dropped to disturbing the peace.
Your Honor, he was arrested in
later in September,
Don't interrupt.
my wife and I got in another fight. The neighbors called the police. When the police showed up, they got on the computer and saw that there was a no-contact order, so they arrested me. When I saw the judge for arraignment, they immediately said 2.5 years in jail and a $50,000 bond, which basically scared me to death.
That's when you got his wife alive for him.
Listen to me. If you interrupt again, it's not going to be good for your case. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good.
So at that point, I tried to make phone calls to my sister and to my wife, and I couldn't do that through the phone system in the jail. And so I was calling Paul to assist me in that situation. He had an attitude that he didn't want to be bothered with it. We were supposed to be friends. I mean, we've been friends for 7 years.
Let's get to the rifle, please.
It came up with a situation where I offered him $100 to help me out, if that's what it took to get my friend to help.
He offered me his deer rifle.
And
I am going to throw you out if you do it again. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
We proceed my way, which is I hear him, I hear you, I ask questions. If I look at you, you respond. If I don't look at you, you don't speak. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. So you offered him $100 to help you. That's what you're telling me.
In a sense, and I asked him if he could go pick up my items, so when I got out, I would not be able to go back home. And he acted annoyed. He didn't really want to do this, so that's when I offered him the $100 situation. I says, look, Paul, when you go pick up my stuff, you can hold my rifle for me as collateral until I pay the $100. And then all of a sudden he was all excited about, well, okay, I'll help you out.
And then you got out of jail, and he helped you out.
Well, when I got out of jail...
No, he helped you out.
He made phone calls.
Good.
And he went and got my stuff for me, my truck.
Okay, and the rifle.
Yeah. Now, when I got out of jail, he wouldn't let me stay at his home because he had his grandparents over there. But besides that fact, my wife had moved out of the house. And so I immediately went and got a court order to allow me to move back into my own home.
Now, okay, let's get to the rifle.
He came over to my house, and he sat down and started talking, and I asked him to go get my rifle, and I give him a $100 check. And he at that time told me that he had given it to his father, which made me very off. So I asked him to leave my home immediately because I didn't want to get in trouble for any kind of domestic violence.
Okay. Now, sir, I'll hear your version of the rifle.
Okay, he was in and out of jail starting in April. I picked him up from jail every time he was there.
How many times did you pick him up?
At least 3.
2
I
times.
can remember. I took him out to dinner after I picked him up, gave him cigarettes when he got out of jail. He called me repeatedly, constantly, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day, whining and crying he's in jail. Please get me out of here, please get me out of here. Of course, the last time he got out of jail, I didn't give him a place to stay because my grandparents were there. That was the last time. Plus, I was fed up with it anyway. Now, come to the rifle, he's crying on the phone, whining, I'm doing everything I can, bending over backwards for the guy.
He called you from jail?
Yeah, constantly. He goes, you know, for helping me out, you're such a good friend, and I don't have any money to give you, but I'll give you the rifle because I know you like it for your time and effort and just bending over backwards for me. Well, as a friend, that's great. So I took the rifle. So we went to pick up the rifle from Darla, me and my wife, and when I got the rifle, she goes, don't ever let Rhett buy this rifle back or give it to him. Because if something happens to you, it's going to be on your conscience. Next thing you know, I pick up Darla from the hospital because her arm's all bruised up and sprained.
Is that as a result of this domestic violence dispute?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Then I just decided then, forget it. I got the rifle out of my control, and I said, forget it. I'm not going to let him buy it back from me. I'm not going to even give it back. Because if something does happen, it is on my conscience.
Well, just 1 second. Was there any mention the point where he said take the rifle of his wanting to buy the rifle back from you?
No, not at all.
At that point, he just said take it.
For my time and effort and everything else.
I believe you.
Okay.
Because I watched his eyes when he said to me...
I have a witness that heard the conversation. My
Really?
sister.
My witness heard the conversation on the
Appreciate if you heard
speakerphone.
I'm more than happy to hear a witness. Who's the witness?
My sister, Jade.
Tell me your name.
Jade Houston.
All right, Miss Houston. You overheard the conversation about the rifle?
My brother Hugh said, I'm giving him the rifle as collateral to give him $100 when I'm able to get back to work to get the money.
You heard him say that?
Yes, I did.
That's what he told her, but that's not what he told me.
I was on
Ma'am,
I was
That's
on
not
the
what he told me
phone.
and my wife. That's not what he told me. She was on the speakerphone at the
And
time
I-
he said it.
You're the wife?
Yes.
Step up.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Hugh Houston says after he was arrested for domestic violence, he gave former friend Paul Pierce a rifle as collateral for bail. Hugh says Paul refuses to return it.
Mrs. Houston, there came a time when the defendant came to your house when your husband was incarcerated. You evidently had a rifle in your house that belonged to your husband.
Yes.
What did Mr. Pierce say to you when he came to the house?
He said he needed to pick up the rifle and Hugh's belongings. And I was kind of scared, and I told him, you know, that he needed to keep this rifle because I was scared.
He never said to you at any time that he picked up the rifle, that it was just as collateral for other monies. Is that right?
No, he never said. He just said that he needed to pick up his gun and his
clothes.
tools and his truck
And
and
his
things
truck
like
and his
that.
clothes,
Yes.
and you gave it to him.
Yes.
And how many times had Mr. Pierce come to your husband's assistance when he had been incarcerated? More than 2?
I would say 2 or 3 times, yes.
Okay, and that was going to jail, taking care of the bail bondsman, whatever had to be done, coming to your house, picking up stuff for him, that sort of stuff?
Yes.
So he was a pretty reasonable friend. Be a fair statement?
Yes, he was.
Are you back living together now?
Yes.
How long have you been married?
Well, we're not legal.
17 years.
We're not legally married, is what she was going to say. How long have you been together?
17 years.
You have children?
1.
How old?
She's 9.
She at home when these acts of domestic violence take place?
Yes.
Big mistake. Have a seat.
Okay.
Okay. Let me hear. You may be seated. Let me hear about your counterclaim, Mr. Pierce.
I gave him petty cash. I bought him dinner a couple of times. He stayed in our guest house for a little while, and my wife keeps her ferret and her cat there.
This is a shack, not a guest house.
Mr. Houston,
doesn't
I don't
matter.
want Mr. Houston. Uncross your arms and be quiet unless I'm speaking to you.
Anyway, we let him stay in the studio. But the thing is he was taking the light bulbs out for some reason, the fluorescent light bulbs, taking them out. The ferret walks out. He jumps up onto the cot, breaks the cot, and broke the light bulbs. Now, I didn't see it, but he told my wife, and my wife had
That's
to
a
clean it up.
lie.
So,
So we're suing for the light bulbs, the cot, all the collect calls from jail, which adds up to about $120.
well, do you have proof of the
Yes, I do,
calls
ma'am.
from jail? I'd like to see that, please.
There's a couple calls on there I didn't get on there. I just misplaced the bill.
It's all right with you, ma'am. I'd like to see these phone numbers that he's claiming against me.
I'm going to absolutely show you, sir. All right. All I want you to do, Mr. Houston, is to take a look at these phone charges, sir. All collect calls.
I'd have to say that these calls are probably legit.
Okay, good. Fine.
Now, he did stay with us on and off, and yeah, he did get his place back after he got out of jail.
That's okay, sir. You had no rental agreement with him.
No.
Mr. Houston, I don't know whether anybody else gave you a pep talk about what happens when children witness acts of
I'm
domestic
fully aware of it,
violence. I'm
ma'am.
sure that
At
they
this point
have.
right now, I do have counseling happening, and I am attending it.
Anger management program?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
And what about your child? Is it a boy or a girl?
It's my daughter.
Is she in counseling as well?
No, she's not.
She ought to be.
She's a happy child.
She's not a happy child. Happy children don't see their parents fighting and their mothers ending up in slings. Happy children, if they hear
We had
arguing.
we had a very stressful time in our lives. My mother
I
was
understand.
dying, and our financial
Allegedly, I don't
situation
care.
was bad because
I
I
don't
was doing
care.
a lot of traveling back and
Mr.
forth.
Houston, it doesn't make any difference.
I know it doesn't.
Children
ma'am.
don't. All I'm doing is suggesting to you that if you're in counseling, I don't know if your wife is in counseling, But certainly, if you want to be good parents, you make sure that your child has somebody to speak to, because that's important. She may not be able to verbalize it to you, but she's probably witnessed things that it's unfair for a child to have witnessed, and you're supposed to make sure that you are protective of her.
I totally agree with that.
Okay? And
What I don't agree with is the way you believe his story, because there's no way in a million years I'd give up my rifle.
Yes, you would. If you were in jail and you wanted out fast enough, you would.
Ma'am, it's not true. It's not true at all.
Yes, it is.
The fact of the matter, I was giving him $100 to cover the expenses of the situation.
Okay, no, you
Now, I
can give him-
expected him to be a friend, and he really didn't want to act as one. And I offered, Paul, you can hold on to my rifle as collateral.
Can I ask
and
you a
that's what it
question?
became,
Can I ask you a
collateral.
question, sir? What acts of friendship have you done for Mr. Pierce?
The reason what have I done for him?
Yeah, I would like to.
This is a guy who came over to our house for holiday dinners. This is the guy I offered my garage for him to fix his car. Well, he dropped, when I asked him not to put oil all over my driveway, and he spilled oil all over the entire garage.
You're
and they
right.
smeared it all over the
I
place.
Just
This
a
is a
second.
man that has no integrity about anything whatsoever.
No,
but
no,
his
you're
own
not
self
answering my
control.
question, Mr. Houston. My question to you, sir, is what have you done in the framework of your friendship for Mr. Pierce?
He calls me periodically, lots of times, to talk about his son. He has a custody situation with his son.
So he
asks
calls
me
you
for
for advice.
and guidance towards that
I
situation.
would never want.
Hey,
He just recently. He had to rebuild the Toyota engine in his engine in his Toyota truck. I came over here about 3 days in a row and helped him with that. I'm a helpful guy. I go out of my way to help people when they need help.
it doesn't
I'm not
compare.
one to sit there
It
and
doesn't
be-
compare, Mr. Houston, to the aggravation that your incarcerations caused him. Doesn't compare.
But-
Having him over for dinner is not it. And I can, quite frankly, Mr. Houston, envision the conversation of you like the rifle, take it.
No,
And
ma'am,
you
it's
shouldn't have
not
the
the way
rifle
it
in your
went
possession
down.
anyway, so you're not getting the rifle back. And in addition, you're going to pay him for the phone calls that you made collect to his house in the amount of $160. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's a piece of garbage. I want my rifle back.
It's just slime bags like that, that take advantage of everybody.
You should have called him and said, do you have my money? If not, I'm going to get rid of the gun.
Darla needs to get out of that relationship. He constantly beat her for the last 10 or 15 years.
To carry things by yourself and don't trust a soul.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Horsford versus Conrad. Step forward, please.
44-year-old homemaker Cindy Horsford is suing her former friend, 34-year-old real estate administrator Christina Conrad, for an unpaid loan.
Ms. Horsford, according to your complaint, you've known the defendant for about 9 years. You met at a 12-step program, a recovery program.
Correct.
And there came a time recently that you became reacquainted with her after a lapse in time. She was in need of money, and you loaned her some money. She says she did borrow some money from you, not as much as you claim, but that you have her coat, which is worth more than what she owes you. So, when did she first ask you for money?
Probably August, July, August. Or
That's not true.
it's maybe November, I'm not real sure.
August
That's
or
more like it.
November?
November might be more like it, yeah.
Go to November. So she asked you for money in November. Under what circumstances?
She had owed a man money that she had an accident with,
And how much money did you lend her?
$200
Did you give her check or cash?
cash.
And when did you again lend her money?
It was around,
Miss Horsford, did you know
The
you were coming
13th.
to court today? Did you know you were coming to court today,
Yes.
madam? Well, you're
I'm
coming to
just
court.
not-
Shh, listen to me. You're coming to court today because you had 2 loans that you made to the defendant. This is not a complicated antitrust case. You made 2 loans. Such and such a date, this much. This is when I made it, this much. Because the questions are going to get harder. These are the easy questions, Miss Horsford. So when was the second loan? Let's give it to me again. Date and under what circumstances, madam?
the date was approximately the 18th of December, and it was for jewelry she had in the pawn shop that she had to make payments on her jewelry.
And how much did you give her that time?
Another 200.
Okay, and you also gave her cash.
Correct.
Anything else?
Yes, and I gave her an additional $60 after she had been asked to please leave.
Explain that to me.
Okay, I asked her to leave after about a week.
I mean, she came to live with you.
Her daughter and her stayed for about a week.
Okay.
Which she insisted that I do.
Did she give you back any of that money?
Yes, she did.
How much did she give you back?
$50.
Now tell me about this coat that she says you have of hers.
She left a black leather jacket in my room, and I hung it up in my closet.
And it's still there?
I have it with me.
Oh, you have it with you? Great, so you can give it to her outside the courtroom?
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
Fine. Okay. Now, you gave her back $50?
$50, correct. And it was nowhere near the amount that she stated. She loaned me a total of $120, the bulk of that of which went towards getting my jewelry back, which she insisted on giving me. She stated that I stole $460. This was the original, what I was served. Now, if I stole it, my first question in my mind was...
Just a minute.
If I stole it...
Why did you write it that she stole money?
Because she wasn't going to pay me back. I figured that's stolen money.
No, it's loaned money. Do you have any proof that you gave her $460? Have any withdrawals from a bank?
No.
Well, where did you have this cash from?
I had it in my heart box in my drawer, and she knew where it was, too. I was saving
The
it.
heart box you couldn't find.
Well, I have a problem here. She acknowledges that she still owes you some money, like $70. Is that right?
Correct. And may I say something, Your Honor? Mm-hmm. I had money that was supposed to be coming to me by a certain date. It didn't. She had made several phone calls, leaving messages on my machine, asking to speak to my boyfriend. I left her the message and said, you know, can you please not involve my boyfriend or leave notes in my mother's mailbox? We're two full-grown women. It's between you and I. She went into an absolute tantrum, told me that she, quote unquote, did not want to see my face until I had all of her money, and furthermore, wasn't going to keep her mouth shut. She was going to call my boyfriend and tell him whatever she felt like.
Go ahead.
When I got home that night, my boyfriend had gotten off the phone with her and was outraged about all kinds of allegations that she'd made, that I was chasing after her boyfriend, this and that. Oh. So I went to her a couple days later and knocked on her door. I had $70 cash. She goes, what do you want? And I said, I need my jacket. I was going to go on to say, and when you give me my jacket, I will give you your money. She slammed the door in my face, proceeded to throw a tantrum on the other side of the door, and I left and thought, let's just leave it lie, let the dust settle till after the holidays, and then I'll go back and reapproach the situation. Before that could happen, I got served with papers.
Okay. Bird, will you see to it that the coat is turned over outside to the defendant?
Sure thing.
Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $70. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step.
Legal assistant Robbie Gibbs is suing her former babysitter, 16-year-old Clarissa Thompson, and her parents Ethel and Paul Thompson. Robbie says, while babysitting her children, Clarissa ran up her phone bill. The Thompsons are countersuing for their daughter's unpaid babysitting fees.
Order. All rise. This is case number 79 on the calendar in the matter of Gibbs versus Thompson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Gibbs, the defendant's daughter, I assume this young lady.
Yes.
Is a babysitter for you.
Briefly, yes.
And your lawsuit wants her parents to pay for the following, because she's a minor.
Correct.
She ran up a phone bill from your house?
Mm-hmm.
So you want them to pay for the phone bill?
Correct.
And you want a return of the money that you paid her for babysitting?
Yes.
Because you say she was not a good babysitter.
Not exactly because she wasn't a good one, but more or less she was not attending to them.
Okay, that's your lawsuit. The Thompsons have a counterclaim, and the Thompsons want you to pay more for babysitting, because they say that you owe their daughter for babysitting. And they say that they also want punitive damages because they say that you were a bad influence on their daughter, which they will explain to me. So let's see where we can fix some responsibility here. What is your first name?
Clarissa.
When did Clarissa start to babysit for you?
Early February. I probably have an exact date in my calendar. Yeah, early February, like around the 9th, I believe, is the first time she babysat for me.
And how did you find her?
They lived above me in the apartment complex and had talked about babysitting and asked her to come over a few times prior to that.
Who did you talk to?
Clarissa.
Directly?
Yes.
So that all the arrangements that you made were with Clarissa?
Yes, ma'am.
And you arranged a fee?
Yes. After about a week or so, we decided that I would just go ahead and give her $30 a week because I was using her for an hour here, an hour there during the week.
So far, Clarissa, is that correct, that she was going to pay you $30 a week?
No, it is not.
Well, what was she supposed to pay you?
Well, she agreed to pay me $20 every time I babysat for her, which led to almost every day.
Really? $20 a day, even if you only babysat for an hour?
It was more than an hour. I would stay overnight sometimes because she would come home so late.
So starting the beginning of February, she started to babysit for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right, Clarissa?
Yes, I started February 12th, actually.
Okay. Did she babysit for you in March?
Yes, she did.
Is that right, Clarissa?
Yes.
And you got paid?
Not really. She only paid me like once, and that was $60.
In all the time that you babysat
Yes.
for her?
Only $60.
Really?
Yes.
What about April? Did she babysit for you?
No,
in
ma'am.
April?
I received my first phone bill on March 24th.
And that's when you stopped the babysitting?
Actually, I had stopped babysitting about a week prior to that. I had come home and my 2-year-old had burned a popsicle stick on the stove. He said he was cooking it.
Okay. And how many weeks in total had she babysat for you?
Approximately 4 or 5.
How many weeks?
6.
Let's go through your book and figure out exactly how many weeks she babysat for you.
Would you like the book?
Yeah.
I didn't write down always when she babysat. I know I have the first few times written down.
She babysat every week for you after you hired her. She babysat for you for 5 weeks. Now, according to you, you were supposed to pay her $30 a week.
February 22nd was the first time I gave her $30. So I would imagine it would have been the first part of that week that we had made that agreement.
Well, then it's 4 weeks.
Okay, so
4
it's about a
weeks
week.
times 30 is $120. Now, how much had you actually paid her?
I've actually paid $140 because of the time prior to that.
So according to your records, you're all paid up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, tell me about the phone bill.
Clarissa would use the phone when she babysat, and from the very beginning I told her I did not have a problem with her using the phone, not to make long-distance calls. I'm a single mother. I don't have means to pay for long distance. I don't use long distance myself. I received my first bill on March 24th, I believe it was, that I put on there, and the long distance charges for that month were $308.40.
Who were you calling, Clarissa?
It was an ex-boyfriend of mine at the time.
Did you know that that was the wrong thing to do?
When I first started babysitting for her, she told me that I had all privileges of the phone. She never told me not to make long-distance calls.
Well, did you make those long-distance calls in your own house?
Sometimes.
What do you mean sometimes?
Well,
Did you ever get a phone bill for $300 a month?
No, ma'am.
No, of course not. Don't fool around with me, Clarissa. Don't fool around with me. Okay, so that's $308. Was that the total phone bill?
No, then I received one in mid-April for $31 in long distance, $87 in collect calls, and...
Was the boyfriend making collect calls to you?
No, he always called me direct.
So nobody called you collect?
No.
Is this have the number of the...
Yes, it does.
Is it the same number that she
No,
called?
ma'am, it's not. It's a Fresno number. And I asked Clarissa, have you been accepting collect calls from this number? And she says, no, I haven't. No, I haven't. And I have here $85 in collect calls. There's...
Well, she says she doesn't know whose those are, but it really doesn't make any difference.
They're not mine.
Let's say they're Clarissa's. Why should her parents be responsible for that?
Because she's a minor.
No, you're responsible for it. And I'm going to tell you why you're responsible for it. Because you have a mechanism where you can put on your phone a block so that you can't make long-distance calls.
I've never had a need for that.
Well, of course
I
you've
make long distance occasionally.
Let me explain something to you. Your business arrangement was never with Clarissa's parents. Your business arrangement was with Clarissa. And if you want to ensure that things in your house are not abused, you have to take steps to do that. Her parents can't come into your house and do that. You have to do that. They are not responsible for the long-distance call made by their daughter in your house. You're responsible. You have to be prudent and vigilant, make sure that the phone isn't used, put the phone away, lock up the phone, disconnect the phone, do whatever you want to do with it. But there is no way that you are going to hold the Thompsons responsible for her calls that she made.
I had
not going to
discussed
happen.
the agreement with her mother at one time, though, Your Honor.
I don't care whether you discuss an agreement with her mother or not. They're not responsible. You're responsible because they have no ability to see to it that in your house the phone isn't abused. They know how to do it in their house because her mother wouldn't tolerate it. Right?
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You think you're entitled to more money?
Well, yes.
Really? How much do you think she owes you?
Well, see...
Give me an idea.
I say about over 600.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robbie Gibbs says former babysitter 16-year-old Clarissa Thompson ran up her phone bill with long-distance phone calls. Clarissa says Robbie still owes her money.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, he would call her directly when I was there.
So?
So I never had any clue that she was calling him or making
Neither
phone
did her
calls.
mother. Neither did her mother. You want to take care of your phone? Lock it in your drawer. It's not a mother's fault. And you'll know better next time. You hire a babysitter, you take out the phone. Or you put a block on it. You say you can't make long-distance calls. That's it. It's not legally responsible. And I can't find that her parents are responsible because you have the responsibility of ensuring that when you hire a teenage babysitter and you know that they sit on the phone and they can sit on the phone for hours, you make sure that they can't get to your phone. All right. Now, you want to tell me why you think you're entitled to any money back from the money that you paid her for babysitting?
Because she wasn't babysitting. She would go in my room and shut the door and use the phone. I came home on an occasion when that happened.
When was the first time you came home and found her?
It was about 2 weeks before I had her quit babysitting, and I told her she was not welcome at my home anymore. Her mother came down. We talked about it. Her mother assured me that it would not happen again. The following week is when I came home and my son had been burning a popsicle stick.
So? Then you fired her.
And then I fired her, yes.
So why do you think you're entitled to anything back?
I just put it in there because I thought that I paid her for services that were not rendered.
You should have been more vigilant. If I came home and found my 2 babies weren't being cared for by a babysitter, I would say thank you very much. I'm paying you for the day. You're not welcome back here
Which
anymore.
is what I did.
No.
And then her
you
mother
had a
came down and
conversation
spoke
with
with
her
me.
mother, and her mother assured you it wasn't going to happen again. Come on. Get real. All right. Now let's get to your counterclaim, if you're serious about it. You think you're entitled to more money?
Well, yes.
Really? Why don't you tell me why you think you're entitled to more money?
Well, because I did babysit for the kids, you know, like, because most of the time she was barely even there. She'd send her oldest son to come get me at 6:30 after she got off work, and then she'd be gone all night.
How much do you think she owes you for babysitting?
Well, see...
Give me an idea.
I say about over $600, but
Really? You think over $600?
Yes.
Really? And you babysat for her each and every week?
Yes.
And you accepted the money she gave you, and you didn't say to her, no, you owe me more than $30 a week. I'm not taking the $30. You came back and you babysat for her again, another week, and then another week, and then another week.
She kept promising me, oh, I have to go to the bank, oh, I haven't got my check yet, or I haven't cashed it. That's what she had kept telling me. So
I'm just going to sit on the phone and talk to my boyfriend. Forget any more money. Chalk it up to the time that you were sitting on the phone in the bedroom, chewing the fat with the boyfriend. You got me?
Yes.
Perfect. Is there anything else you want to tell me about your counterclaim?
Yes, ma'am. I was suing her for punitive damage because, actually, I don't want to do this.
Smart. Smart. It's her responsibility to take care of her phone. It's your daughter's responsibility to do the right thing if she's babysitting. I'm sure that you've had a chat with her about abusing the privilege of somebody else's phone. I have a feeling you have.
Yes, I have.
Okay. All right, Miss Gibb. Next time, you just be a little more careful, madam. That's all.
Please excuse. You may step out.
I was pretty upset.
I'm very sorry for Mrs. Gibbs, and I hope that she get her life together.
She said that she had permission. Her parents said, no, you didn't have permission.
They both played on the telephone.
Let's let teenagers babysit anymore.
Not to babysit for people like her again.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Link versus Booth. Step forward, please.
Business owner Joyce Link is suing her neighbor, carpenter John Booth, for damage to her vehicle. Joyce says a drunken John fell against her van.
Miss Link, the defendant is a neighbor of yours.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that he and a bunch of his drunken friends were coming home one evening and fell on your car or van, causing a dent in the van.
Yes.
Mr. Booth says it wasn't him.
Okay.
So tell me when this happened.
It was on a Saturday night, February 16th, 2002, around 12:31 a.m. in the morning. Me and my husband and children were in our house asleep, and we were awoken by some loud voices outside. So we got up, me and my husband, and looked out our bedroom window, and it was Mr. Booth and 4 of his friends. They were drunk, falling into our van and my next-door neighbor's bushes. And we proceeded to go outside, me and my husband, and I asked them to please get off my vehicle. And the next thing I know, Mr. Booth is yelling about, you know, him and his friends.
No, what was he saying to you, Miss Link? I've heard everything.
He was yelling that we woke my effing neighbors up, and one of his friends had apologized for being on our vehicle. He told me that he was sorry, and Mr. Booth yelled, "Sorry, hell, I fell." I have pictures of my vehicle and my neighbor's bushes that happened that night.
Okay. Can I see them?
On the matter, and no one would come to the door, so my husband had wrote a note and taped it to his front door. Then on Monday morning, I was on my way out, and Mr. Booth's wife had approached me.
What was the note? What did the note say?
That they needed to get in touch with us about the damages that was done to our van due to him and his friends being drunk that Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Booth's wife seen the damages, and she said that she would let her husband know and to get an estimate, and the damages would be taken care of.
Did Mr. Booth ever contact you?
Yes, that evening. Again, I was outside, and he approached me, and he apologized for what happened and told me that him and his friends don't remember anything. They were too drunk. Again, he did apologize, and he said to go get an estimate that he would take care of the damages. So I did go get an estimate, and I left it on their door because that's how we were notifying each other. So I did go get the estimate, and I left it taped to his front door.
Okay. Mr. Booth?
So far, everything's semi-right. Yeah, we did go out and get drunk. We got a little carried away. The wife was feeling sick, so we went up to the neighborhood bar so I wouldn't bother her. We were up there partying, got a little carried away, come on home. We were pretty intoxicated, okay, yeah. And when we passed her house, the guy that actually did the damage, him and his girlfriend were lagging behind me. I was already in my driveway when her car got damaged.
Were these people that you were out drinking with, were they men or women?
Both. We were all couples.
Well, not you weren't a couple. Your
No,
wife
I was in front.
Shh. Let me finish, sir. You weren't a couple. Your wife was sick.
Yes.
That means there were 5 of you.
Yes.
And where were these 2 couples going from the bar?
To my house.
What were they going to do in your house?
They're going to spend the night.
So they were invited guests of
Yes.
yours. And you escorted them to the bar?
Mm-hmm.
And then you all got drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were escorting your friends, invitees of yours, back to your home for the purposes of sleeping there.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Then I don't give a rat's behind who it was that fell on the van, sir. You're responsible.
Okay,
Okay! That's good. That's what you should have said 3 months ago. Mr. Booth, in the last few months, how much money have you sent them towards the repair of the car?
I don't feel like I sent anything.
What do you mean
I
you don't
didn't do
feel
the
like...
damage.
Didn't you just follow what I said? Didn't you just follow what I said?
Okay, I was escorting him back to the house. He fell into the van.
You were responsible for your guests. If your guests become rowdy, and as a result of their being rowdy, cause damage to the neighbor's property, they don't have to go around and hustle and find out the names and addresses of your guests.
I gave it to her.
You're responsible, and if you feel as if your friends are responsible, you go get the money from them.
I was trying.
Oh, I was trying. What do you do for a living?
I'm a carpenter.
Mm-hmm. The lowest estimate that you have, Ms. Link, is $519.66.
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff. If you have friends, you make sure your friends are well taken care of, sir. And if they cause damage, you are responsible. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. This is case number 108 on the calendar in the matter of Gibbs versus Mbemba Sidon. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Who is Mr. Sidon?
Brian.
And what's your first name?
Brian.
And yours?
Mitch.
On your birth certificate.
Mitchell.
Mitchell, I'm not your friend.
Okay.
Mitchell. Now, Miss Gibbs, did you know Brian and Mitchell before this incident?
No, ma'am.
Stand up straight. According to your complaint, Miss Gibbs, you're sitting in your car, and these 2 idiots were having a fight.
Yes, ma'am.
And they ended up on the hood of your car, causing dents in the hood of your car. You want them to be responsible.
Yes, I was studying for a final.
Sitting in your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Brian and Mitchell say that A, there was no damage to your car, and B, if there was damage to your car, the other one did it.
Okay.
And then we have Brian, who is counterclaiming because he says that because you are vindictive in pursuing this matter, he will probably be expelled from school and wants you to pay for his semester's tuition. That's your counterclaim. Is that
Yes,
right,
ma'am.
Brian?
Yes, ma'am.
Please don't laugh. Please don't laugh at Brian. All right, Miss Gibbs. What was the date of the incident?
May 13, 2002.
What time?
It happened, I'd say, around 1:40.
In the afternoon?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did this happen?
This happened in Nassau Community College by B1 in the south parking lot.
Did you see this fight before it ended up on the hood of your car?
I saw it from beginning to end.
Tell me what you saw.
I saw Brian walking towards the school, and he was passing a green Chevy Malibu. And in the green Chevy Malibu, there were two girls and Mitchell. As he was passing, I guess somebody said something. He stopped, turned around, walked back towards the car, got into a confrontation with one of the girls through the passenger window. That's when I saw Mitchell exit the car. Brian began to argue with Mitchell. They got into each other's faces. Brian hit Mitchell, and they began fighting. That's when I saw Brian.
Would you just a second? Would you go over and have a brief word with him?
Sure.
Thank you.
What I need for you to do is I need for you to respect this court. So
Yes,
if you
sir.
would stand up straight.
Yes, sir.
And try to restrict your laughter.
Yes,
okay?
sir.
My man.
We're sorry to disturb you. You have your train of thought?
Yes.
Brian hit Mitchell.
Brian hit Mitchell. They continued fighting. Next thing I know, Mitchell's body is on my car. Brian is on top of Mitchell. I see him hit Mitchell a couple of times. Then Brian completely flees the scene. At that point...
Took off?
Yes. When he took off, I got out of my car, confronted Mitchell, told him, look at the damage that you've done to my car. I want this taken care of. That's when I got the phone number of one of the girls that was in the car with him in the green Malibu. So I can get in touch with him to get the money for my car.
Have pictures of your car?
Yes, I do. I have the police report. I have pictures of my car.
Let me see it all.
The whole time that this was happening, I was on the phone with my boyfriend from the United States Merchant Marine Academy.
Thank you. So it wasn't the hood of your car, it was really the side
It
panel
was the side front panel of the driver's side, and there were some dents on the hood. And an object couldn't have done that, like me hitting something or something crashing into my car, because the paint is in perfect shape. There's no scratches or anything.
Okay. Now, Brian, I would like you to tell me, you're passing by this green car, and evidently you wanted to say something to one of the gals in the car. Tell me what you said to her.
Well, actually, what happened was somebody shouted something from the car. There was a laugh. There had been a lot of ridiculing by these people before. It was finals week, and I was going to walk away, but I was under so much pressure from my test. I said, you know, I'm tired of putting up with this. I went back to the car.
What did they say?
They were laughing. Somebody shouted a profanity I'd rather not say. And,
You could say it. I've heard everything.
call me a...
Someone in the car?
Yeah.
Male or female voice?
It sounded like a female voice. Okay. So I approached the car, and right away they started denying it, and we mixed words. Mitch got out of the car, and we...
When you say you mixed words, what did you say?
You know what? I can't remember word for word. I maybe, just yelled back and forth. Here's where the true story starts now. He got out of the car, Mitchell. We confronted Elias, my witness. He was involved, too, although she never even remembers him being there, so I don't know which fight she was watching.
Which actually I don't.
Elias comes up, he tries to break us up. At the time, there was really going to be no confrontation. What happened was, Mitchell, I don't know, went to push me away a little bit, and I made contact with him. At that time, he turned around, he went to his car, he grabbed what was an ice cleaner, one of those brush stick ice cleaners, and he came at me to hit me. Elias tried to grab him to stop him. I tried to grab the stick. That's when we got into a scuffle, which lasted about 20 seconds, maybe 25 seconds. I never threw the first punch. I never ever put Mitch on top of the car. And after the thing, I did not flee the scene right away. We walked away, we calmed down. I left the school so there would be no further problems. I never even seen her there. I never saw a car get hit by anybody. I wasn't on a car. I surely didn't put him on a car. I didn't punch him first.
Now we'll hear from you.
Well, I was in the car, the girls, and we were laughing, just waiting for class to end, just hanging out in the car. And Brian had walked by. I don't know if they made a direct statement towards him, but he took it that way, came to the car, started telling the girls he's gonna strangle them, or just do it, being a bully. And he asked me if I had a problem. I said, no, I got no problem. So he told me to get out the car. I got out the car to try to tell him, relax, we don't need to fight. You're 25, I'm 20 years old, there's no need for this. And he headbutts me. So I fight back, and then as I'm fighting back, his friend comes in. They say they broke it up, but where I come from, if you get into a fight one-on-one, and the other person's friend grabs me, I think, it's a two-on-one. Then I went back to the car, got a shovel, a scraper to defend myself, because He's a pretty big guy, little guy, got his friend with him. I'm with two girls. I struck him with it, you know. I had to do what I had to do. And then we had a little scuffle, this and that. I don't know if we dented the girl's car or if it was done like that already, but she had confronted me saying this happened, and if it did happen, then I'll take care of it, but if not, then I don't really think we did that damage.
Now I'd like to hear about your counterclaim.
Yeah. Up to this point, I have no previous record. I have no arrest record. My academic record is stellar. I made the dean's list the past 2 years. I'm too old to be getting involved in frivolous encounters. She tells the dean, and her story has so many holes in it, it's hard for me to even sit there and listen to it. And now because of this, my records are impounded, so I can't transfer schools. The least I'm going to get is academic probation, which ruins my scholarship chances, which I have plenty of. And at most, I'm getting expelled. So I'm going to lose a half semester of my life for this, for a false statement, because I know absolutely 100% I did not dent her car.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't. You know one thing. You know when you were passing the green car and somebody called you a...
Yes, I know that
you should have kept walking.
I should have, but...
Right, that, you know.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
At the moment when these two were...
Look right here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know, Brian was just a little upset at these
Look at me.
And later today...
I said I would definitely honor our initial agreement. I don't in any way want to...
Stick you.
Right. She started to get really upset.
Well, just show me the rest of the payments that you made.
That's the only payment that I made.
Why?
That's
Why?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. College student Eloisa Gibbs says her car was damaged during a fight between schoolmates Brian Mbemba and Mitch Seiden. Brian and Mitch are blaming each other.
So you're dealing with a couple of girls, 19, 20-year-old big mouths.
Yes.
Right? Who call you a name. You're not a are you?
Constantly, absolutely not.
All right. So that you knew it wasn't true when they called you that bad name.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So you keep on walking.
I understand.
You keep on walking. That you know for sure. Then we go back to the police report. Police interviewed witnesses who stated that Mitch Seiden was the person who exited the vehicle to fight, and that they did in fact fall on the complainant's vehicle.
Okay.
Independent witness, not her. You had no vendetta against her. She doesn't even know who you are.
Absolutely.
Why
But
in the world?
I see this as an opportunity to make money off of something that was already there. Hey,
Oh,
look,
really?
fight, opportunity. Let's make these guys pay for my damage.
My boyfriend saw my car prior to me going to school and knows there was no damage
Miss
to my
Gibbs,
car.
Miss Gibbs, you need not answer him. Now, in all fairness to you, Brian, you have a witness here. I will hear the witness.
Thank you.
Who wants to stand up and be counted?
I'll stand up, Your Honor. At the moment when these two were...
Look right here.
Oh, I'm sorry. When these two were all fighting, there was no force against any car. Nobody fell on any car. There was no need for her to explain the car dent. There was these people right here didn't cause.
Brian was walking by himself past the green car. Where did you come from?
I came back with him.
Just a minute. Brian is walking past the
Brian
green
walked
car.
past the car, and then I see him turn around and walk back to the car.
Yeah.
I tried to catch up to him to see what his problem was. When I went up to the car, and he was trying to ask the girls who were calling him a name or something, Mitch stepped out of the car and told Brian that it wasn't him. I don't know, Brian was just a little upset about the girls laughing at him or calling him a name. So
Look at me!
These two started to fight a little, but I didn't see them fall on any car nor cause a dent to any car at all.
Thank you very much for your participation.
You're welcome.
Brian, your counterclaim is dismissed. It's nonsense.
Okay,
And as
thank you.
far as the damage to the plaintiff's car, there isn't a question in my mind that the two of you caused the damage to the car. You should have kept on walking past the green car. And Mitch, you shouldn't have gotten out of the green car.
And I just try to calm him down.
You shouldn't have gotten out of the green car. Whatever the situation was, the two of you were responsible for her damage. So, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $870 to be shared by the two defendants, and the counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
If I dented the car, I must have been blacked out during the time because I can't recall it at all.
I believe that Judge Judy made the right decision.
Whatever happened, happened. Whatever the way the case went. Everything works out the way it does.
If you know you didn't do anything wrong, make sure you got it right.
Stay in your house, lock your doors, and don't go outside so you don't get sued.
And now...
Your Honor, this is case number 25 on the calendar in the matter of Ramirez versus Garza.
Thanks, Brian.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Ramirez, is it Ramirez?
Yes.
I'd like you to sit down, sir.
Thank you.
You and the defendant have two children together.
Yes.
Were you ever married?
No.
But you are now married to this gentleman.
Yes.
Your claim is that because of false charges that Mr. Garza filed against you, you were forced to incur substantial legal fees and debts. False charges with regard to child abuse. He filed those complaints with Child Protective Services. And you want him to reimburse you for all of the expenses that you incurred as a result of these false charges. Is that right?
Correct.
Mr. Garza says that he merely reported what he saw and what his children told him. Right now I'm going to need a time frame. When did you and Mr. Garza separate?
I believe it was in 99.
And how old are your two children?
6 and 4.
So they were really tiny. They were a year
Yes.
old and 3 years old.
About 3 years old.
When did you remarry?
December 16th of 2000.
And when was the first report of child abuse?
Back in 2000.
When in 2000?
In August of 2000.
All right, so let me go to Mr. Garza. Mr. Garza, when did you first make a complaint to Child Protective Services?
This was back in August 2000.
And what was the nature of that complaint?
Well, pretty much child abuse. My kids were talking about how their stepdad would slap them or hit them or, in that nature. I have papers here from the Child Protective Services stating
From August?
From May of 2001.
Well, let me take a look at it, please.
I also have police reports here and medical reports.
I see various letters. In some of the letters it says that they determined back in May of 2001 that the family, that is your family, does require our service at this time. I don't know whether they spoke to the children or not. So what you're telling me is in August, one of your children, probably the older one, was telling me that they were hit, but hit by the stepfather. And you reported that.
Yes.
What was the next report?
Well, after that, my youngest son, Isaiah, he came over and he went to the bathroom, and when he was urinating, he has a habit of he'll drop his pants down to his knees, and I noticed some bruises on his buttocks. And he had said that some ants had bit him. He was afraid to say it, so he had said that some ants had bit him. Finally, he came out and said that, that stepdad had, hit him with the black sand, there was some bruises on there.
And did you make a report at that time?
Yes,
I
have
that report.
Medical reports from the physician that saw him.
Can I see the report, please?
Yes.
Now you can stand up, Mr. Ramirez. Well, this second report was called in by the hospital, according to the doctor's notes, because the doctor found bruising noted to both buttocks on the child. Okay. Mr. Ramirez, did you back sometime in 2001 hit one of the children, the older child, on the behind?
Isaiah, the smallest children, he was going through a lot of problems at daycare concerning when he would come back from his father's house. We tried disciplining him with timeouts, taking toys away from him, name it. It got to the point where we couldn't take it anymore. They didn't want him at the daycare. Took him home. I spoke to him. I spanked him. Next thing you know, I'm getting arrested because his father put charges on me. I got a paper here stating that...
No, I'm not finished yet. You spoke to him, and how old was he at the time?
He was 3.
3. So he was 3 years old.
The daycare was getting ready to kick him out because they didn't want him there anymore.
He was 3. I'm speaking. He was 3 years old. So you spanked him.
Yeah.
With what?
With a belt, ma'am.
With a belt?
Yes, ma'am.
On his buttocks?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have to attend any classes, Mr. Ramirez, as a result of this investigation?
No, we had a homemaker come and give us parenting classes.
Well, that's parenting classes.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to have services as a result?
Yes, ma'am, but from an hour and a half classes, it dropped down to 20 hours because the homemaker found it wasn't necessary, that we didn't need those classes.
Well, you do need the classes. If you think that it's appropriate to beat a 3-year-old with a belt, causing bruises sufficient to be noted by a hospital, then you need a lot of parenting classes, more than an hour and a half. 3-year-old child who was going through a state of mother, father, new father, visiting one, there's a certain amount of acting out behavior. What you don't do is you don't use an instrument ever on a child. Ever. You used a belt on a 3-year-old. That is unacceptable. Period. End of discussion. It's unacceptable.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me very carefully. Your husband just admitted he beat your 3-year-old with a belt. He abused him.
Spanked, not abused.
Beat. Abused. You should have taken the belt and wrapped it around his neck.
And later today...
Miss Jones, you were trying to get over on the system, madam.
No,
That's
I
what
wasn't
happened.
trying to get over on
Sure
the
you
system,
were.
Judge Judy, because when I called there, they told me, don't bring the ticket yourself, or we're going to take the money.
I wish you had the name of that person who told you that. I think that you probably ought to sue them.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Veronica Ramirez says the father of her children, Eloy Garza, falsely accused her of child abuse. Eloy says Veronica's husband, Juan, hit his son.
Ms. Ramirez, I don't have to go through this whole case anymore. I have just solved this whole case. You are suing for filing false charges against you. False charges of
Actually, the
abuse?
false charges and the custody hearing that we actually went through for the past 2 years.
Well, why do you think you would be entitled to legal fees from him for a custody hearing?
He sued me for custody of the children because of that incident.
Yes.
We went through about 2 years of a custody battle. It got to the point to where he decided he didn't want custody of the children anymore.
So?
He wanted me to agree not to move out of the city we were living in, and he wouldn't fight for custody. He wanted a social study done. We had the social study done. The lady came to the house. She did interviews on both of us. She did interviews on the children. In the social study that I have with me, she states that he seems lovable with the children. The children are lovable with him. She didn't see any problems with the family together. She felt that the children should stay living with me.
So?
We went to court. He had moved to Corpus because he was living in Corpus already working. He was away from us about 3 months. He put temporary orders on us not to leave the county. The judge spoke to the children to see whether they felt safe enough to move out of town with me to Corpus with him, or if they wanted to stay in Harlingen with their biological father. The children stated to the judge that they wanted to leave to Corpus with us.
Let me explain something to you. I don't know who this judge was who interviews a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old to make a determination as to where they want to live. I never did that with a 4-year-old. Where would you like to live? With your mommy or with your daddy?
We also have him right here. He states that he has evidence that there was abuse.
There was abuse.
When?
Period. There was abuse. I'm finding right here that there was abuse. And you have no case to sue him for filing false allegations of abuse. Your husband abused your 3-year-old. You should have taken the belt and wrapped it around his neck. That's what you should have done. And I don't know what other issues the defendant has with you. However, any father who would not at that point fight for custody would be neglectful. So he had an absolute obligation to file for custody of his 2 children. And then the thing dragged along for 2 years because this judge had to wait until the kids were 4 and 6 in order to interview them.
No, it didn't drag on that long. It dragged on that long because he kept putting it off.
Maybe. But I don't care what the social worker said. I want to tell you something. I don't care what the social worker said. It is irrelevant to me. The mother's husband beat the children, but the children seem happy and safe with the mother. Father never beat the children, so we think that the children should stay. We think the children should stay with the mother. I mean, I don't understand a report like that. In any event, I'm not having to decide that case now. All I have to decide is whether or not he should be responsible for the cost of all of your legal fees as a result of fighting both his custody case and the case that he filed and the orders that he requested, preventing you from moving out of the jurisdiction, relocating.
I also have a letter here from the police department where they took the children to the police department, and the police even put in here where they were trying to bribe the children to tell the police that they were being slapped.
Listen to me very carefully. Your husband just admitted he beat your 3-year-old with a belt. What do I care about the police report? Your husband looked at me. I asked him a question. He answered my question. He beat your 3-year-old with a belt. He abused him.
I spanked him, not abused him.
Beat. Abused. 3-year-old, belt, abuse. That's it. Marks from a belt on a 3-year-old is abuse. That's not neglectful. That's not neglectful. Neglectful is if you don't give them a hot lunch. Neglectful is not when you beat a 3-year-old with an instrument. So you are not entitled to the return of any of your legal fees matter.
In the Penal Code, Section 961 states that the state declines prosecution in this case. The defendant is allowed to use forceful to reasonably discipline a child under Section 9.61 of the Penal Code, and there is insufficient evidence to show any other intent by the defendant. That's
I hope you feel better. If you appeared before me and you said to me, I lost my temper once, and I hit him with a belt.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Wait, that's not what you're saying.
No, you asked me.
No. I lost my temper once, and I hit him with a belt, and it will never happen again because that's not me. I know that's not the way you're supposed to discipline children. But what you just read to me, sir, was an indication that you believe that this is an appropriate way of disciplining children.
No, it's not, ma'am.
It better not be.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Let me tell you something. You're not going to get the money from him.
Why? He signed me a promissory note stating...
I don't care if he signed you the Declaration of Independence. Courts do not help you when you try to scam the system.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Veronica Ramirez says the father of her children, Eloy Garza, falsely accused her of child abuse. Eloy says Veronica's husband, Juan, hit his son.
Ms. Ramirez, you have no case. The defendant did exactly what he should have done as a father by reporting what he saw. He did exactly what he should have done as a father by fighting for custody. He did exactly what he should have done by trying to prevent you from leaving the jurisdiction and relocating. And if he lost on all those counts, that's very unfortunate. But he had not only the right, but the obligation to do it. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't think it went right.
Worked out good, I guess.
His false police reports, taking the children to the police department, filing false reports. I have all of that documented, all the false reports that he made.
Nothing else better to do, I guess.
I even have the reports where the police say that they were trying to bribe the children by telling them they would give them things if they said this.
As soon as I saw, bruises going on, I knew I had to get in and do something.
My children see him as their father.
They're little, 3 and 5,
So that shows what type of biological father their father really is.
He's never around.
No, I've been involved with their lives all the time.
I might have used excessive force, which I regret doing it.
Let the real parents do the discipline, not the step parents.
Be careful who you get involved with.
Go back to my country club and eat a po' boy sandwich.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Martin versus Moss. Step forward, please.
Nanny Gail Martin is suing her former employer, day spa owner Kimberly Moss, for non-payment of services rendered. Kimberly says Gail abused her 10-year-old daughter, Lauren.
Miss Martin, you answered an ad in the paper for child care and light housework that the defendant had placed in the paper. It is your claim that you worked there and you were not fully paid before she let you go.
That's correct.
Okay. The defendant says you were, in fact, fully paid. Are these the 2 children she was supposed to take care of?
Yes, Your Honor.
When did you answer the ad and when did you start working?
I answered the ad the first day I noticed it was in there. And there were 3 children, 2 girls and 1 boy. And I started to work on, the first week was October the 10th, and the second week was October the 15th.
Okay, and what was the pay arrangement?
She told me, I told her what I got at my last job, and she said I paid $10 an hour. And after the first week, which was the Friday, but I had to come back Saturday, she only paid me the $300 from the first 3 days.
Well, whatever it was,
it wasn't enough because I had worked that first week.
The first week, how many days did you work?
4 days.
Is that correct?
I really don't remember.
Well, if you don't remember, then I have to rely on her. And the second week you worked, how many days did you work?
I worked Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. 3
And
days.
how much were you paid during that 2-week period? Yes, you were.
The whole time I worked there, she paid me $300.
Okay. How much did you pay her?
When she first came to my employment, we agreed that she would get $100 a day. And
Really, not $10 an hour?
No.
$100 a day, irrespective of how many hours she worked?
Right.
First week she worked 4 days, and you gave her how much?
Whatever it was, she
said you only gave her $300.
Well, that's not accurate. Whatever I owed her is what I paid her.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nanny Gail Martin says former employer Kimberly Moss owes for babysitting fees. Kimberly says Gail threw her 10-year-old daughter in the shower with her clothes on.
So, what happened the second week?
The second week, she was paid up. On the last day, her car broke down. She asked if she could stay with us overnight for a couple days because she didn't have transportation to and from work. And I said that would be fine until she got her car fixed. The first morning of the night that she stayed over, there was a problem. And what happened was I was in bed. My daughter Chelsea came running to me to wake me up, telling me that Gail had put Lauren, my baby, into the hot shower with her nightgown on. So I got up and ran into her bedroom, and there she was crying, cuddled up in the corner in the hot shower. So I got in the shower with her in my nightgown and blocked the hot water from her and adjusted the temperature, and to try to reduce the trauma of what had already occurred, took a shower with her, got her out, we all got ready for school, took her to school. That is why my secretary drove her home, because if I was to confront her about it, it would have turned out ugly. So I had my secretary relieve her from.
Did you
that
put
was
the
the last
child in the
day.
shower?
No, ma'am. I would never do that to a child under any circumstances. Never. And if this did happen, how come she didn't call HRS? That's what I'd like to know. When she told me she
Which
didn't have
child
the
was in
money.
the shower?
The baby, Lauren, was.
Lauren? Come up here. Tell me about the shower.
I was in bed and I didn't want to get up because I didn't feel good, and then she picked me.
You mean get up to go to school?
Yeah. And she picked me up out of the bed and put me in the shower, and she turned the hot water on with my nightgown on.
No question in your mind about that?
Mm-mm.
Where was your sister?
She was in bed with me.
Had that ever happened before?
No.
Okay, go sit down. All right. Miss Moss, the plaintiff worked for you for 3 days, the second week.
Correct.
Did you pay her?
I do not remember the exact amount of time that she was under our employment.
Fine. Then I have to rely on her records for those days.
That's fine.
That she was. Now, at that point, did you fire her?
That day, absolutely.
That day, she was let go?
Absolutely.
Okay. You say not. Is that right?
No, she explained to me she was going to go to Daytona Beach with her boyfriend, and that her business that she just opened, her Kimberly's Day Spa, they do facials
Whatever.
and massages.
You were
and
told
whatever.
that your services were no longer
Yes,
necessary.
because her business hadn't taken off like she expected it to, and that she couldn't afford it. This child that's wearing that nice little Sunday school outfit, that's not what they wore when I worked there. They dressed shamelessly.
What do you mean shamelessly?
They dressed in little Daisy Dukes with half their butt poking out the bottom, and little things with their belly buttons showing, and trying to go to school like that. They were, and makeup, and they were hellions.
And what about
They were 9 and 11, going on 17.
Go ahead.
I came back on the Monday to collect some money that she owed me from that previous week. Her oldest son was changing the locks on her house door. And I said, well, what happened? He says, don't expect to find any money here. We had a break-in. Our safe was broken into, but I didn't see any black powder anywhere. So he said, we don't have any money to pay you. So why would she have to do that if she paid me the week before?
Okay.
Now,
okay.
Ergo.
Okay. You work there according to your records, and since she doesn't have any records of her own, which she should have, a total of 7 days. I am crediting her testimony that your agreement was $100 a day, and that she paid you, according to your records, which I am crediting, $300, which means she owes you $400, and I'm issuing a judgment for the plaintiff in that amount. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. That's case number 84 on the calendar in the matter of Dennis versus Pierce. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
All right, I have a claim and I have a countersuit. The claim is that, Miss Dennis, you bought a home from the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
On substantial acreage, 5 acres?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And it is your claim that there was a damaged bathtub.
A latent defect, yes.
Don't give me latent defect. There was a damaged bathtub.
Yes, ma'am.
And it cost you a substantial amount of money to fix that bathtub.
Yes, ma'am.
In addition, you claim that the defendant has embarked upon a course of harassment by calling Child Protective Services on your family, for which you also want to be compensated.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says he never made any calls to Child Protective Services. Is that right, sir?
This is true, Your Honor.
That the home that you purchased was purchased as one usually purchases a home. You had a home inspection, an inspector of your own choosing, and whatever defect was found should have been found by the inspector. He says, however, that you actually owe him money. You had left certain property with the consent of the plaintiff on the acreage in a shed, and it was the arrangement that you would take that property after the closing.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And that the defendant, in retaliation for the fact that you weren't going to pay her for this bathtub, locked the shed, couldn't get to your property. Subsequently, the shed was removed. She put your property at another location, and a lot of it was either damaged or destroyed.
That's true.
Okay. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's your claim.
Yes.
So, Ms. Dennis, when did you purchase the house from Mr. Pierce?
On January 22nd.
And when did you have the home inspection?
I have a copy of it here.
I'd like to see it.
It was done before we bought the home.
Of course. Stupid to have it afterwards.
This is the advertisement of the home.
No. I just want to see your inspection.
Your Honor, it claims 2 full baths, and being how one of the tubs was damaged, it was only considered 1.5 baths.
Is that what you're trying to tell me? That because the home was advertised 2 full baths and there was a crack in one of the bathtubs, he misrepresented the home to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you get a life. Bird, would you buy a house where the report of findings said, visible evidence of wood-destroying organisms observed, wood rot and subterranean termites, wood rot, subfloor, under bathrooms, says damaged, tub, shower, and walls, damage, deterioration, noted at tub, plastic tub, cracked right front corner. All right, let me hear your claim with regard to this bathtub, madam.
The bathtub was cracked all the way in the middle of the tub. It was hidden with a decorative non-slip strip. Basically, my father-in-law, who is also my realtor, considered it, saw it. It was a latent defect.
Wasn't a latent defect. You had an inspector.
The inspector could not find it because it was covered up.
The inspector shouldn't be an idiot. The inspector noted wood rot under the bathtub.
Because of the water damage.
Right. Hello? If there's wood rot under the bathtub, something must be leaking. My goodness, where is that leaking from? Let me take a look in the bathtub.
They thought it was from termites, ma'am.
Listen, that's not his fault. That's your inspector's fault. Sue your inspector, not him. I mean, I don't know anything about the mechanisms of a house. I know how to go in, turn on a light, turn on a faucet. That's what I know. Open a refrigerator, and occasionally, if rarely, turn on an oven. But I do know this, that when you buy a house, you have a complete inspection, and it's simplistic that if there's wood rot that he notes twice under a bathtub, then you go and you peel off whatever is there, the strips that you put in so that you don't slip and fall, you peel it off, and you say, that's where it's leaking from.
It was covered up, ma'am. And the home inspector was not allowed to peel off the tape.
Who said that?
Because it was
Who
his
said that?
home. It was his home. And the home
Miss Dennis, you didn't look carefully enough, and stop blaming other people. Now, let's get to the next part of your complaint. The next part of your complaint has to do with harassment.
Yes.
Okay. Now, did this harassment start before or after you locked the shed where Mr. Pierce's property was located?
We have an amendment signed by the contract at the closing that says that Mr. Pierce was not allowed to move his contents until the shed company came. The shed was not removed until a month later. The shed company also said that it was repossessed when it was picked up, which meant even though they would have kept his belongings.
Can you answer my question? The word is either before or after.
Before, during, and after.
So tell me when you locked the shed.
The 24th after I confronted him.
24th of what?
January, 2 days later after the closing.
Okay, 24th of January.
When I confronted him about the cracked tub.
And he said what to you?
That tub's fine, my kids use it all the time.
Okay.
And I said, well, how come you didn't disclose it to the home inspector, the realtor, or anybody else about the cracked tub? You know, maybe we could have negotiated a different price. Maybe I could, you know, just make me aware of it. He did not make me aware of it. My daughter could not bathe for days.
What he said to you was, my kids use that tub all the time, which is probably true because there was so much water underneath that the wood rotted, and the tub was fine. But on the 24th, you confronted him, 2 days after you closed. When did you lock the shed?
The 23rd.
You locked the shed the 23rd after you discovered the crack.
Before.
Your Honor, if I may.
Go ahead.
When I went to go pick up my possessions, which was on the 24th of January, the shed wasn't still locked. They advised me that there was a problem and that I had to deal with my realtor and her realtor at the time, which is her father-in-law. Well, in that event, I said to her, well, I came to get my Jeep and my stuff. She said, no, you're not getting it. She was even going to hold my Jeep hostage.
No,
so
no,
I
ma'am,
told
that's
her,
not true.
I told her that I will not do this. If you want, we could resolve this with the deputies. She did give me my Jeep. I thought I would let this blow over. I had already scheduled to go up north on vacation. I already had a scheduled pickup for Cook. Cook just doesn't come.
You had a
scheduled pickup for the shed and the contents to be picked up.
What do you mean this is a rented shed?
It's a rented shed. Yes, it is. I had to make 3 different plans, 3 different arrangements to have the shed picked up. Finally, Cook Shed agreed to have this shed repoed because then that would be a base of action for them to go on and retrieve that property. There was no other way of getting it. They withheld me from getting that shed. I was willing to get it that week of closing.
You mean the week of the 24th?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Your Honor,
Yes.
if I may, we signed a leased contract stating that Cook's shed would pick up shed and contents, not Mr. Pierce would come and pick up contents.
You were getting even. You were using the contents of the shed as leverage for the cracked bathtub.
Ma'am.
Miss Dennis,
Yes.
I want you to listen. You know, that's a rather simplistic thing. He's got property on your property.
Right.
You come in, and 2 days later or the next day find out that there's a cracked bathtub, and you're angry. So you say, I'm not giving him his property back until we resolve the issue of this bathtub. You have to be honest with me, madam.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
HRS came to my house, and my fiance committed suicide over this. And I have a baby that's 8 months old now that will never see his father.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Roseanne Dennis says Terry Pierce misrepresented the sale of his home by camouflaging a cracked bathtub. Terry says Roseanne is holding his belongings hostage.
Go ahead.
Ma'am, I was told to do that by my attorney.
Just a minute. I don't care whether you were told to do it, but that was, listen to me, Miss Dennis,
Yes.
that's the drill. Don't give him his property.
Until I was able to serve him.
Until you get satisfaction with regard to the bathtub. Now, what happened to his property?
Ma'am, the thing of it is that I was told that basically he would not give his address to my realtor or his realtor or anybody else so we could find him so I could serve him court papers. I had to hire a private investigator to try and find out his address because he wouldn't disclose it to anybody. I wanted to do this the civil way. I didn't want him on my property. I was scared of Mr. Pierce. I had to buy a gun. My fiance, HRS came to my house, and my fiance committed suicide over this. And I have a baby that's 8 months old now that will never see his father.
Your fiance did not commit suicide over this, Miss Dennis.
We were harassed by
Miss
HRS.
Dennis, Miss Dennis.
We were harassed by HRS
Miss
on the
Dennis.
same day that the sheriff came to look for his property, and he was not there. HRS came.
Miss Dennis.
That was a coincidence.
Shh, Miss Dennis. If you've deluded yourself into believing that your fiance committed suicide over this cracked tub and everything that came from it, you are doing nothing more than deluding yourself.
It caused a lot of problems between us.
It may have caused a lot of problems between you, problems that I'm certain existed before. Certainly the same bathtub happened to you. You did not commit suicide as a result of this cracked bathtub, and
Ma'am,
neither
I
did your
didn't think that I
fiance.
would
And
lose
neither
my
did your
children.
fiance.
My fiance did. He was scared that he was going to lose our baby. He didn't know anything about protective services. This was his first child.
Listen to me carefully. Nobody took your child from you. Correct?
No, but
Nobody took the
my
child out of the
fiance-
house, Miss Dennis.
My fiance did not understand that, Your
Well.
Honor. He thought protective services would continuously bug us. I got an HRS report here that says that the allegations were false. The call was made on the same day that the police
From
came
me.
to look from his stuff.
HRS said Terry Pierce.
And basically,
Mr. Pierce,
Sorry, ma'am.
don't interrupt.
Ma'am, if I could just submit that it was the same day that the sheriff came to look for his belongings and they were not on the property, that's the same day HRS was called.
That's not proof that he called, madam.
Your Honor, if
I
I
don't
may.
know who else was.
I
We
don't know
just
who else
moved
called
there.
either, but what I'm telling
I
you
just
is you
moved
bought a
there.
house.
I didn't know anybody else in that county.
This is a stressful time for you. You have a new baby. Baby's father is no longer there to assist you. You made a mistake when you purchased this house by not reading this inspection very carefully. Any person purchasing a house, bells would have gone off and said, listen, If there's rot, there has to be a reason. I want you to go back there. I'm not satisfied with the report. I want you to go back there and look at it. See what's causing that water to get into the wood underneath the bathtub. You didn't do that. The house is closed. Miss Dennis, speak not. But you had no right. You have no right to withhold his property. I mean, if a lawyer gave you that advice, don't give him his property until you get the bathtub resolved.
No,
that's the
only
wrong
until I
thing
could
to do.
serve him.
What kind of damage are you claiming, Mr. Pierce?
Well, Your Honor, the contents that I had in the shed, which they allegedly said they never had, was damaged. It was destroyed. Well, I had a computer. I have a list. The stuff was damaged and destroyed, and a loss of wages from the tools that they withheld. They stole all my documentation from my income tax returns for the last 7 years, my investment portfolio papers. They took photographs of my wife, my children, and which we never had gotten.
You never got them back?
I never got them back, ma'am. No, I didn't.
What did the plaintiff do with your property?
They lied about their identities to the sheriffs. Okay, that's why the sheriffs had to keep coming back to the house. They were getting no cooperation. They lied
Just
about who they were.
I asked you a question. I said, what did they do? The shed came and got taken away. When the shed came and was repossessed, was your stuff in the shed?
No, it wasn't, because I was there that day. They came and picked up the stuff.
What happened to the property?
It wound up in a used storage facility down by her ex-father-in-law down in Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
And
so
I
they
also,
moved the property out of the shed
yes,
into another facility.
yes, and they claim they never had it.
From what place did you take his property and where did you put it?
I removed the property out of the shed and I put it in used storage. The woman who works there, Joyce, watched as his property was being removed, and basically she noticed that nothing had been damaged.
Don't tell me what she noticed, Miss Dennis. You made a big mistake. You have absolutely no legal justification or right to move his property from where it was to you store it. And if anything happened to that property from the time he put it in there until the time he finally retrieved whatever he retrieved from you store it, you are responsible. There is no legal right that you had to move it. Let me see what you claim, Mr. Pierce, was destroyed and or lost.
Here's a list from the sheriff's department, and here's some paycheck stubs as of last week.
I'm not interested in paycheck stubs,
well,
sir.
that's part of the loss.
I'm not entertaining the part of the lawsuit that indicates that they withheld tools and therefore you couldn't work. That's iffy, at best. What are you showing me this? I asked you what you could
There's a list, an itemized list from the sheriff's department. My work tools.
You never got them back?
No, I never got them back. Which ones I did get back were broken. And the gentleman who owns you store it, I made him... see, I couldn't open up the combination lock because I was really upset that day. And I made the owner of the storage facility come to the place, and he opened it up in my presence, and he saw that the stuff was just thrown in there.
There's no question in my mind it was just thrown in there.
Ma'am,
I want to see, sir, a bill for repairing the computer.
I never repaired it. I just went and bought a new one. I paid $1,199 for that unit that has been broken, but I went to Gateway and I bought a new one for $799.
What else?
My radio arm saws, my chop boxes, tools that I use. I install windows for a living.
Okay. Do you have any bills, Mr. Pierce, any receipts for the replacement of those tools?
No, but the deputy who wrote up the report, he had made a list of what the stuff was worth.
I'm not interested in what the deputy thought the stuff was worth, right. Mr. Pierce. You say you need these tools for your living. So I assume if you went to the shed and the tools were either lost or destroyed, you had to replace them.
Well, I did.
So all I'm asking you is for the receipts so that I can see how much it cost to replace the tools that you said were missing.
I didn't think to bring them because of the fact that they were written on paper. I showed the deputy report.
Just a second. Give this back to him. This is nonsense.
Your Honor, nothing was damaged or broken.
Just a second. Mr. Pierce, I'm not a stupid lady.
I know you're not.
Fine. Then when you come to court, you don't tell me what a deputy thought your tools were worth.
I had to prove to them.
What you do is you bring receipts to court,
right,
so that you show me I bought this saw and this is what it cost.
You're right.
All right. So you don't have that. What else?
That's about it, except for the
Your Honor, may I say something, please?
Who are you?
Ma'am, I'm Marguerite Dennis, Roseanne's mother.
Sure. What do you have to contribute to this?
May I address the court?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, in a separate transaction from purchasing the home, we bought some furniture, and inadvertently, not realizing what all we had bought from his wife. He packed one of the pieces of furniture that we had bought. So he agreed to bring it back to us the next day.
What was that piece of furniture?
It was a wicker love bench.
Okay.
And at that time, he was welcomed onto the property to get his vehicle. And at that point in time, he had every opportunity to go to the shed, get his work tools, or get whatever else he wanted to. Common sense would just tell me that if you're given the opportunity to go into your shed, you inadvertently or purposely left tools that you need in order to do your job, earn your bread and butter, you're going to go and get them. You're going to retrieve them.
Or take them when you
That's
move.
not true, Your Honor.
All I'm telling you is, Miss Dennis, I'm not giving him any money for the tools because he cannot establish to my satisfaction what those tools were.
I understand that, Your
and
Honor.
how much it cost to replace them. I'm also telling you and your daughter that it was the wrong thing to do to move any of his property off the property
I
into you
understand that,
store
Your
it.
Honor.
And I don't care who gave her that advice. It was very bad advice. Miss Dennis, while I'm awarding Mr. Pierce $800 on his counterclaim, and that is really for the computer, because I don't think you can buy a new computer for less than $800.
Ma'am, I have a repair bill for the tub.
I am not.
I know you don't.
I am telling you, that's your fault. If you hired an inspector that didn't do his job,
it was covered up by a
did you understand me? You know, I can't say it to you more than 10 times. If an inspector notes rot under a bathtub, you look further.
He could have disclosed it because it's against the law.
Oh, gee, Miss Dennis, you just don't get it. Take responsibility.
Your Honor.
Just a second.
Okay.
Did you give them back the wicker bench?
That's the day I found out that I was not allowed to go into the shed and get my property.
Okay.
So they're lying about that also.
Okay, I'm dismissing the claim, and on the counterclaim, I'm awarding Mr. Pierce $800. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. This is case number 20. All parties on Choka versus Chavez. Step forward, please.
26-year-old hairstylist Diane Choka is suing her sister's ex-fiancé, 26-year-old dock worker Shane Chavez, for the deposit on a wedding reception.
Miss Choka, the defendant is your sister's former fiancé.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, you loaned him $500 to put down as a deposit on a hall for the wedding.
Correct.
Wedding was called off. You want your $500 back.
Correct.
So let me hear about the circumstances of this loan.
My sister and him were planning on buying a house, so she was trying to put down all the money toward the house and that, and he agreed to pay for the hall, but at the time he didn't have the money for the down payment on the hall.
Just a minute. Wait.
So I went ahead and put the money on the down payment on the hall.
Just a second. Let's go back. He didn't have the money.
Correct.
Did the two of you have a discussion?
Yes.
Tell me where and when you had the discussion.
It was basically over the phone constantly, and
Not constantly. When did you have the discussion that I will put down the $500 for the hall for you?
When they planned on getting married, I don't know the exact date that they set the date, when they were going to be married.
Well, I want to hear about where you were when you had this discussion.
I was at home.
And you spoke to him on the phone?
Correct. And I've also talked to him in person.
Well, I want to hear the first conversation you had about the $500. Do you remember it?
I was on the phone with him, and my sister was also at his house or his apartment because they were living together.
Right.
And I said I would go ahead and put the money down on the hall, in the understanding that he would pay back the $500.
Not understanding. I want you to tell me what words were exchanged.
I asked if he would pay back the money, and he said yes when he got his tax returns in.
Go ahead, let me hear.
I did offer to pay back the $500. I never asked for the money to be loaned to me.
Okay, just a second.
Go ahead.
You had the conversation with her on the phone.
Correct.
Tell me about your version of the conversation.
The conversation just went as pretty much as she said. She had asked me if I was going to pay her back the money, and I agreed to pay back the money, just over verbal conversation over the phone. It was mainly because I wasn't wanting to pay it back. It's just out of kindness to her. That was pretty much all of it, and to get her off the phone and leave me alone. That was pretty much the whole bit, because she was calling every 3 days asking me about this.
Asking you about what?
Asking me about the money.
What about the money?
After everything was said and done with the wedding being called off and all that.
No. I'm talking about at the time, Mr. Chavez.
Mm-hmm.
The time she said she would put the money down on the hall. Did you say to her, I'll pay you back?
No, at that time I did not say anything like
Well,
that.
I want you to tell me about the conversation.
There was none. I'm guessing that her and Lori had went to the hall and just rented it.
When did you tell her that you would pay her back the $500?
After everything was said and done, the relationship was over.
After it was over?
Yes.
And tell me about those conversations.
She had called the house about 3 times in 1 week, asking me about it. And my sister would answer the phone at times, and she wasn't able to, give verification of where I was or anything like that. And I had finally gotten to talk to her, and I told her just out of point blank, yeah, I'll pay you back the money.
Fine, good. So that's what you agreed to do, right?
Over the phone, yes. It was
Over
pretty
the
much.
phone, in person.
Well, it's...
And you didn't pay you back the money?
No.
Initially, even if I find that there was no contract, sir.
Well, it's not only that aspect of it. You got the aspect that Lori over here. Lori is marrying everybody. Okay, Lori is marrying Jimmy and Billy Bob and whoever else is around her. Okay.
Yeah.
The money originally did not come from Diane. The money originally did not come from Lori. The original money to put down the hall was from a prior wedding that Lori was supposed to be in.
No. Hand down. Yeah.
That Lori was supposed to be in. The gentleman that she was supposed to marry originally put $500 down for a wedding hall. That wedding got canceled all of a sudden. More problems. That money then got rolled over to Diane, and Diane agreed to pay Lori back the $500.
No. We lost out the money from her first wedding. Here is my canceled check that the bank makes a copy of to the hall that they were supposed to get married at. Came out of my pocket, not my sister's, no one else's.
Okay. I don't necessarily believe that you had a conversation with him where he asked you for a loan of $500 to put down on the hall. I think that you and your sister and your mother went down, reserved the hall, he broke it off, and then you started to ask him about this money. But once he agreed to pay you back, he agreed to pay you back.
More of an annoyance than it was just to actually pay her the money.
So, is she,
You get creditors calling your house constantly, you got some kind of legal binding there, I just got to get her off my back. That's pretty much it.
Good, so why didn't you
said
pay her?
no.
Just a minute, so you told you you'd pay her. Why didn't you pay her to get her off your
I
back?
had no intentions to begin with. It wasn't my money. I never asked for the money. It was just
It was
put
for
up.
your wedding.
It was just there.
It was for your wedding.
It was for her wedding. I was just a participant that happened to be there.
Judgment
just
for the
there.
plaintiff in the amount of $500. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Now, this is case number 236 on the calendar in the matter of Ronstadt versus Nelson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Miss Ronstadt, when did you and the defendant start to live together?
Approximately May 1st, 2000.
And when did you separate?
He left on the 19th of July, 2001.
Were you both working at the time?
I was not working. He had lost his job the day prior.
So how did you support the household?
I have a nervous system disease, and I was receiving disability payments.
You were receiving disability?
Which exceeded his income.
No, that's a false statement, Your Honor.
Yes, it is.
What kind of work were you doing, sir?
I'm a computer technician.
And how much did you earn last year?
$63,000.
Okay. Now, did you move into a new apartment together, or did you move in with him, or did he move in with you?
We moved into a new apartment together. I was making $110,000 at the time I lost my job, and I was receiving disability payments in excess of $2,600 a month.
Your Honor, she was borrowing money from her mother to support this.
This lawsuit has to do with the fact that you claim that you purchased for your joint use a motorcycle.
That's correct.
That's a false statement, Your
Mr. Nelson, I don't want to hear from you until I look in your direction or ask you a question.
Okay.
That he won't return to you.
That's correct.
Mr. Nelson says that you purchased this motorcycle for him as a gift. That's your defense.
Yes, Your Honor, that's true.
Okay. Now, I would like you to tell me the circumstances surrounding the purchase of this motorcycle. When was it purchased?
It was purchased on April 20th, the year 2001. I purchased it because when I lost my job, we had a fair amount of money to live on, but by April, it became apparent that it just wasn't going to make it. I talked to Mr. Nelson, took a full 401k distribution. I got approximately $17,000 left. I have all the proof here. The bike cost $9,400. I did so because he was driving a 4Runner. The 4Runner was costing about $500 a month in just gas alone. And we needed to cut down on our daily expenses. We could not fork out that amount of money on a daily basis for gas. Plus, he had to pay a toll fee to go across the bridge to get to work. Using a motorcycle, you avoid the toll fee.
So?
So we bought the bike.
Now I'll hear from you.
Your Honor, on my birthday, 4/10, she told me that for my birthday as a gift that she would be buying a motorcycle for me. And it's a wonderful gift. Plus, it will save on the gas and all these other things. This was not for our use. It was for my use, and it was a gift as a birthday present. 4/10, we had discussed going to look at motorcycles on the weekend. We did so on Sunday, April 15th, and put a deposit of $100 on the motorcycle in question. We were waiting on the rest of the 401k loan to come in, and it did come in. Sorry?
Not a 401k loan, a 401k payout. She got cash.
Okay, yeah. Well, she took that money and told me that she was going to pay the debts that were incurred because of her out-of-control spending with eBay and whatnot, the debts that she was creating, as well as buying a motorcycle for me as a gift. We went back on 4/21 and paid the remainder of the balance. She was talking to the salesman, and I have a written statement from the salesman.
Don't tell me what the salesman said.
This is very important.
And the salesman should have been here.
He couldn't come here because he's a salesman. He couldn't make it. He doesn't know me. Why would he take the time to come to the
Not
court?
a reason. That's hearsay.
Okay. Well, she also told Jamie Curley and my mother. We rode the motorcycle to my mother's house, and she boasted this beautiful gift that this generous gift that she bought for her son, as a birthday gift.
Why did you leave in July?
We were having some difficulties. We were having a lot of difficulties, and she was adding a lot of stress to my life, and plus my children. She was not really caring for my children or very sympathetic towards the situation between my children and I. She didn't want them around. She was trying to control how often I saw my children and whatnot.
But that wasn't a recent thing. That probably had been going on for a while.
Yes.
Was it going on before April of 2001?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
So what did you take this very expensive gift for?
Because it was a gift for me.
So why did you accept a very expensive gift if things weren't going well?
They weren't going too well, but I mean, these things were tolerable, and it was getting progressively worse. When she lost her job, things just kept going downhill from there. And, I got to a point where I was just fed up and I was done.
Now, one of the defenses that you have to this action, other than the fact that it was a gift, is that you say that jointly you purchased furniture for this apartment that you moved in together. And the only thing that you left with was the motorcycle.
It wasn't, I wanted to leave clean. I didn't want to have it drag out or anything. And we had discussed, she said I could take, I told her three things that I wanted. I'm going to take, I said I'd like to take the computer desk, the DVD player, and our big screen TV. And that's it, and you can have the rest. And I'm leaving. And I didn't include the motorcycle because that was a gift and that was mine. So I didn't ask her, is it okay if I take my motorcycle? I had a police civil standby because her son got out of control that night and brought two friends over.
Did you in fact take this TV?
No, I did not. She wouldn't allow me to take the TV because
So did you take anything from the apartment?
No. Only, excuse me. I took my clothes, my belongings, and
the motorcycle.
And the motorcycle. And the police wanted me to get my stuff and get out. They were there on a civil standby, and I was standing right next to an officer when I rode off with the motorcycle.
Now, who paid for all the furniture in the apartment?
She paid partially, and we had a joint account and whatnot, so I don't know exactly how much of what we paid for.
How much money did you put into the joint account each week?
Actually, I have it right here. I have statements right here.
I have a statement also, Your Honor.
How much money did he put into the joint account?
$1,263 each every 2 weeks.
Okay, and what was the rent on the apartment?
$1,800.
$1,850, Your Honor.
Excuse me. This motorcycle was not an issue, if I may. This motorcycle was not an issue until after I'd left and she saw Miss Curley riding on the back of my motorcycle. We left the place, and then Miss Rungstad told me that she said, now, because of this stunt, you're going to lose the motorcycle. And that's when it became the issue.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lori Rongstad is suing her ex-boyfriend, Eric Nelson, for the cost of a motorcycle. Eric says Lori is jealous of his new fiancée.
Is it accurate that he put in about it would come out to about $2,700 a month?
He put it in, but he also had bills that used up all of that money.
I want to know who paid for furnishing the apartment.
I did. I sold over $80,000 worth of stock options. I bought all of the bedroom furniture prior to us ever moving in and charged it on an American Express card.
Are you telling me that he did not contribute to purchasing anything for the apartment?
No, ma'am, he didn't, because I had the cash. I had over $30,000 when we moved in. The only things that we needed to buy once we moved in were we bought a big screen TV, a DVD player, and a couple of VCRs.
Where
Other
did you
than
pay
that,
for that from?
At that time, we did not have a joint account.
Where did the money come from?
From myself, from my stock option sales.
Your Honor, I also had stock that I had sold as well, and plus I also put extra money in that we bought stock together, and she put it in her son's name, and then sold the stock, and we used that money as well, so it's not going to look like it came from me at all, but that's what happened.
There's never been any stock in my son's name ever, and that can be proved through IRS records if needed.
I'd like to pull
Now,
those in.
I have one other question. The car that you had, the truck that you had, was that sold?
No, ma'am.
Did you continue to use it for the months of May and June?
Yes, I did at times, yes.
So you kept that. Do you drive?
I do drive, but I have my own vehicle.
What kind of vehicle do you have?
At the time, I had a Chrysler Concorde. However, it was tampered with, and the engine no longer worked, so I had to turn that in and buy a new car.
But when this motorcycle was purchased, you did not sell the other car that he had.
No.
That car was retained.
That's correct.
Now, do you have both vehicles now, sir? The motorcycle and that other car?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
You have both?
Yes.
Okay, and you had both in the month of May?
Yes, I did.
And you had both in the month of June?
Yes.
It was a gift. It was a gift, Miss Rostat. Now, it may have been a gift that you decided should not be a gift because the romance didn't last more than a couple of months after you gave it to him, but that's really not dispositive.
No,
I would accept what you said to me about saving all the money because of saving all the gas money, et cetera, if the agreement was that he was going to sell the car that he had or the truck that he had so that there would be no additional expense, but there is certainly no saving by having two vehicles, two insurance, two repairs, two everything else. I mean, I think that, yes, oh yes.
May I
think that it is, no. I think that it's probably not the moral thing to do to accept this very pricey gift, sir, from somebody where the relationship wasn't going right. You know, guys like big toys, so you're going to take it anyway because where else were you going to get a $9,000 present? But I certainly think it was not the moral thing to do. Do we understand each other?
Yes, I do. I left that house, Your Honor, without taking anything, so I
well, my
understand
sense is, from what the plaintiff tells me, that she had far more financial resources to spend to furnish that house than you did. I was a little sympathetic when I first read your answer, and you said, I walked out of this relationship with nothing. We had furnished a house for $25,000, and I just left with this gift and my clothes. Until I ascertained, sir, that you have children for whom I'm sure you pay child support, that you did put in certain joint monies into a joint account, but that went to pay off some bills. You had a car, you had insurance, you had gas. That eats up what you put in to the joint account. So I don't see that you had a lot left over to buy furniture, whether it was a big screen TV, because that would have been a single guy's paradise to leave a relationship with a big screen TV and a motorcycle. So I'm sorry I can't help you, madam.
May I please say a couple other items that I was not able to say?
Sure.
Anything that was a gift, I gave him. I bought him Yardrow Eagles. I bought him a number of very expensive items. I gave those to him. Those were pure gifts. I was down to all of the last money I had in my life, my 401k. I would not have used half of that to buy him a gift. Also,
yes, you did.
No, he also did not.
Yes, you did.
Ma'am, he also did not use.
You shouldn't have used. If it wasn't a gift, you should not have used half the money that you have in your whole life to buy him a motorcycle.
Your Honor.
That's not smart.
I know.
And don't give me all the baloney about he was going to save money on gas. Common sense suggests to me that if you were going to buy somebody a car to save money.
Why did I put it in my name?
No. Listen to me carefully. You would buy him a car for $8,000.
It doesn't get across the bridge fast.
Hey! Did I look at you and ask you a question? A motorcycle is not something that one buys to save money.
It is.
No.
I
a
also grew up with
four-cylinder
them.
little car just to get you to and from work can save money,
Yes.
right? A motorcycle is a boy toy.
I like motorcycles, and I've always had them.
Good. Buy yourself another one. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's obviously filled the judge's head with lies. I mean, they won when they're purely evil people.
We were next door neighbors, and Lori, Lori won't take any responsibility for their breakup.
I have 20 police reports of all the harassment. A woman scorned.
After I left her, I got involved with Jamie Curley, and she's off at that.
All parties in the matter of Anderson versus Liebler, step forward, please.
22-year-old homemaker Shauna Anderson is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old clerk Caleb Liebler, for an unpaid loan for bail. Caleb says he paid her back.
Miss Anderson, the defendant was a former boyfriend of yours.
Yes.
There came a time when you were angry with him about something, and according to you, you knew that he had stolen something.
Yes.
A car stereo. And in order to get back at him, you told the person from whom he had stolen the stereo that he stole the stereo. Is that right?
It wasn't really to get back at him. I knew the person. And
a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You weren't being a good Samaritan.
No.
He was arrested.
Yes.
And you felt a little bit guilty, so you decided you would help him out and bail him out.
Yes.
The bail money was $500.
Yes.
Then, according to you, he asked you if he could use that bail money to pay his lawyer.
Yes.
You said, okay, but
Yes.
it's a loan.
Yes.
Now, you, Mr. Liebler, acknowledged that it was a loan.
Yes.
Your defense is that you paid her back.
Yes.
Okay? So now we have the facts, and now you have to show me how you paid her back. Right?
Yes.
When did you take the $500 and give it to the lawyer? What date?
Sometime in April.
April
of
5th.
2000.
Of 2000?
Of 2000. This case is 14 months old.
When did you pay her back?
I paid her back from that point on until I left for jail at the end of August.
How did you pay her?
I paid her in...
Now look at me. Don't look at
I'm
the
sorry.
sky.
I paid her back in payments. We worked together at Friendly's. We lived together.
From April until August?
Earlier than that.
He did not live with me.
I lived with her
Don't
in that
speak.
residence from February until May.
When did you start paying her back? After you separated?
I started paying her back after I left.
After you left the house?
I went back home, still working with her though, at Friendly's. We ended up getting back together.
Okay.
I did not move back with her. I stayed at home, but we were together.
You saw each other?
Right.
Fine.
And whenever she needed money on the weekends, she'd come up to me saying, "You owe me money. I need money this weekend. I'm broke. Can I get paid? Can you give me something?" So I would give her $60, $80 here and there. She does not have a license. She doesn't have a car.
Don't go into extraneous stuff.
I'm
You
not.
would give us $60, $80.
I'm not.
You have to tell me when.
When? On weekends, Fridays, Saturday nights.
May
Like,
2000.
I don't want to hear from you now. It's up to him to convince me that he's paid you back. So I have weekends, $60 or $80.
Yeah, from
correct?
the end of May through June, on weekends, Friday, Saturday nights. She comes up to me at work. "I want to go to a rave. I want to go to the club. I want to go out this weekend. I have no money. Do you have something for me?" Would she even ask me for a receipt, but I'm being at work. I'm a cook. I'm greasy and stuff like that. I'm not going to take a receipt and stuff in my pocket. So I just never asked for a receipt. I would give her money on weekends. She lived a half an hour from her job, so there was certain times where I'd actually give her money for hotel rooms to stay in, so she did not have to drive back up to Saratoga, to go home, because she doesn't have a car. Sometimes we'd work until 2 o'clock in the morning. I paid for hotel rooms just for her to stay in.
You stayed in them too.
Right. Right?
Sometimes,
All the time.
not all the time.
Miss Anderson,
we
stop doing the weave dance and keep your mouth closed until I ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
What else, Mr. Liebler?
What else? I'll have to say that while I was living with her, there was many expenses.
No,
that
I'm not talking about before. Before May, I'm not interested in.
I gave her money, handouts, whenever she needed it.
Handouts is not the return of a loan.
But that's what it was in terms of. That's what she'd bring up.
Just a
She'd bring
second.
up, "You owe me money."
Mr. Liebler, you added in this pot motel rooms that you paid for that you also stayed in.
No, not all the time.
Yeah.
How many times?
I'd say twice. I'd say at least twice.
At least twice, maybe 3 times.
No, twice.
Well, get a receipt. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. Next time, get a receipt.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yes.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Smith versus Smith. Step forward.
60-year-old singer Myrna Smith is suing her daughter-in-law, 33-year-old computer specialist Candy Smith, for an unpaid loan to hire an attorney.
Mrs. Smith, the defendant is your daughter-in-law.
Yes, she is.
According to your complaint, there came a time when your daughter-in-law needed some money. She needed some money for an attorney because she was going to be involved in a custody dispute with her former husband. You have 2 children from your prior marriage, and you loaned her the money.
Yes.
$5,000. And it is your claim that she has not repaid you.
She has not repaid.
And your daughter-in-law believes that she has the right to offset that money, and she's going to explain that to me. When did you make this loan?
I made the loan May 1st, 2000.
Do you have the canceled check?
Yes.
Can I see it, please?
And this is also my statement.
Okay, what was your agreement with regard to repaying this loan?
She told me what she would do would, on her pay days, she would deposit money into my account. However, that did not happen, so finally I went through my son and I asked when she would start making the repayments, and she decided that she would make the payments, but she wanted to put them into my savings account instead of my checking account, and I felt she had no right to know what was in my savings account. And she was very inquisitive about my money and how it was spent.
Okay, and as of today's date, you have received no money from this
No.
$5,000. And you acknowledge that, but for your defense, you did not repay this money out of paychecks or anything else.
No.
Okay, now I'll hear your defense.
Actually, what happened was that at this time, when we had moved into the house, she had given
What
me...
house?
We had purchased a house together. She had actually sold her previous residence, and she had used the down payment to purchase a house so that we all can live together, and we were sort of helping each other out.
And help yourselves as well.
Right, and help
All right,
ourselves.
so what was the arrangement? She put the down payment on this new house.
Correct.
How much was the down payment on the new house?
$100,000.
She put down the $100,000 on a house that you were all living in together.
Correct, it was under my husband's name.
Was there a mortgage on this house?
Yes, there was.
How much was the mortgage?
$185,000.
And I gather from your papers that you and your husband make the mortgage payments.
Correct.
How much were the mortgage payments?
$1,703.
$1,703. And how many people from your family, you and your husband, you have a child together?
Yes, we have 1 child together and 2 children from my previous marriage.
So there are 5 of you all together.
Correct.
And how many people, other than your mother-in-law, were living in the house?
The grandmother and also the uncle.
Grandmother or uncle paying any money towards the house?
He needs to answer. I can't answer.
Step up. Mr. Smith, how much money was your uncle paying to the house?
My uncle was scheduled to pay $400 a month, but unfortunately that rarely happened.
What about your grandmother?
No, nothing.
Okay. How many months did you live in the house?
If include January, 8 months.
How many mortgage payments did you make? Because that's your defense to this action. How many mortgage payments did you personally make?
Roughly 8 months.
You have proof of those payments?
Show her proof that you were paying mortgage.
What is that?
This
is the household account that my son and I had to make payments for anything regarding the house. This is how our bills were paid.
Can I see? And I'll see your checks for the mortgage payments.
Unfortunately, that I do not have. I didn't know that was going to come into question.
You have a bill, though, right?
I have a bill.
No, I don't need a bill. I need the mortgage payments. Your defense, Mrs. Smith, is that it wasn't working out and the house was going to be sold, wasn't working out with all you folks living together, and your mother-in-law insisted that the deed be turned back to her. It was, and you believe that you can set off the number of mortgage payments that you made on the house against the $5,000 that you owe her. That's your defense.
No,
in a
not
nutshell.
exactly. Not
Well,
exactly. I'm sorry. Can I clear this up? Okay, my defense is that because of some illegal activities that took place, we had no other choice but to move.
No. I
Yes.
don't want to hear that.
Yes, we had to move out of the house within 2 weeks. We had told her we were selling the house because of what was going on. With the money that we had, we had to actually use a lot of money to leave the house when we shouldn't have had to leave the house.
Is that your defense?
We shouldn't have to have...
Just a second. Is that your defense?
Well, yes.
That because of what you perceive to be some illegal activity that was going on in the house, you chose to move, which was a very good judgment, and you believe that your mother-in-law owes you money, the money that you had to spend to find a new place.
Right. That is included with the money that we spent with the mortgage. This is all tied together.
Well, so I'm going to eliminate your first defense. Your first defense is no defense. Now let's get to the mortgage payments that you say you made. Do you have any other checks?
And the only checks that I would use for the mortgage payments was the household account.
Okay, and who put money into the household account?
It was my wife, myself, and then my mother.
And your mother?
Yes.
Well, how much money did you put into the account?
And my brother.
Just a minute. How much money, and the $400, and how much money did you put into the account every month?
$1,900 a month I put into that account.
Now, my next question to you is the house was sold.
Actually, my son went and got a $20,000 loan that I didn't know about.
Loan for what? Against the house?
Yes.
Did you get a $20,000 loan against the house?
Yes, I did, ma'am.
Did you pay it back?
I didn't have an opportunity to.
No, did you pay it back?
I was paying the loan back to the people that I got the loan from.
Did you put in any money towards the down payment?
Towards the down payment, no.
So she has $100,000 in down payment.
Right.
Right?
Correct.
She has $100,000. You have Zippo. You can't offset. I mean, first of all, you can't offset it anyway, but it's not even reasonable to offset it. Because if your mother goes to sell the house now, there's a $20,000 loan that you took out that's going to be deducted from the sale price of that house. Did you consult with your mother before you took out this loan? Did she say it was okay?
I didn't need to. I didn't need her permission on that.
Well, you don't need her permission on this either. You owe her $5,000. That's what you owe her. That's what you borrow. That's what you repay. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step down. This is case number 190 on the calendar in the matter of Sheftel versus DeRosa. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Don't bring out, don't touch anything. Mr. Sheftel, according to your complaint, you were in the business of making customized chocolates.
Yes, ma'am.
And the defendant had been a customer of yours for some time.
Yes.
There came a time when she ordered a customized item.
Correct.
Which you claim you delivered to her, put on a credit card.
Correct.
She stopped payment on the credit card and returned the chocolate.
Yes.
You say there was nothing wrong with the product and you want her to pay for it.
Correct.
Mr. Rosa says the product was defective and delivered late, right?
Yes, my horse looked deformed.
Okay. How long had she been a customer of your business?
About 5 or 6 years.
With no problem?
Never had a problem.
What kind of customized chocolates had she ordered previously?
The coins, I brought these to show you. They're customized chocolate coins with an imprint with her company or horse's name on them.
Fine.
And she ordered it by the thousands.
And what was this customized order that she made when she returned the order?
Okay, she had placed an order for thousands of chocolate coins. She came to pick them up on Valentine's Day, one of my busiest days of the year. While she was picking them up, she was on her way to a horse show. She asked if there was anything new that we're doing. You know, she's always interested in something different. And I showed her the photo chocolates that we do. That is an imprint of, you give us a photograph and we make it into the chocolate and the whole thing is edible. She was all excited. She happened to have with her a picture of her horse, which is on the back of a phone card that she gives out as a promotional item. She gave it to me.
Can I see it, Bert?
I went
Sure.
into the back and I said, if you want, I'll make one up real quick for you. I can do that. So I went into the back and I made one very quick for her, just to give her an idea. This is the exact sample that I made for her.
Let me see.
No, I ate the sample. I have an eating disorder. I ate the sample.
Listen, Mr. Rosa, don't speak until I speak to you.
Sorry.
Don't look back there. Look here. Don't forget. Don't speak. Okay, so this, you say, is the sample you made for her.
Yes, here, this is the finished product that we actually shipped out, several hundred of these.
Okay.
And you can take them out of the box if you'd like.
Just a minute. I don't want to take them out of the box. Okay. Okay. How many of these did she order?
200.
And what was the price?
The total came to $562.50.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The chocolates are done individually handmade, so it's not like they're done through a machine and they're all identical. They're all done by hand. Okay. We take the picture that she gave us, which you have, and we make a master sheet of them.
Listen to me. I don't plan on going into the chocolate business.
Okay.
So I'm not interested on how you do it and whether it's a good product or not good product. Listen carefully. Bird, don't eat the chocolate. That's the evidence. When did you ship out this chocolate?
The chocolate was shipped out exactly 1 week later on the 20th, and it arrived in Arizona where she needed it the next day on the 21st at 9:25 and arrived in signed for at 11:19 in Scottsdale.
Okay, she got it.
She got it within
Good.
a week.
Good.
I get a call from her. She said she didn't get it in time. I said, well, what do you mean you didn't get it in time? We shipped it out. Well, she said she needed it for a party. I said, well, I was never told that you needed it for a party. This was a last-minute order. We told you we'd get it there by the end of next week. So I knew nothing about the show. That was the first thing. Then she said, well, she didn't like the way they looked. I said, well, what's wrong with them? And I never really got a correct answer from her.
Okay, let me find out. There's no question that you received the goods on the 21st of February,
Yes.
and there's no question that you stopped payment on your credit card of $562.50.
Yes.
Okay, now explain to me why.
We went in, as you said, and I'll make this very brief. He showed us the chocolates. I gave him this card, which you have in your hand. I said, could I have a sample? The reason why I brought up the eating disorder, he brought it, and I wanted to keep the sample, but we ate it on the way to Scottsdale because there's no way that chocolate can last around me. So I said to Frank, it was beautiful. I said, Frank, please make this up for the show. He sent them a day late, which I said, okay.
Just a minute. It was exactly a week later that you received them, which seems totally reasonable. So the time is not the issue.
The issue is we go through great lengths to put my horse in the best light possible. On this Visa receipt, we not only have the chocolates, but we have the gold coins. The only thing I took out of this was the chocolates, and if you look at them, it makes my horse look deformed.
Well, let me see them.
The very reason,
just a
to
second.
do this is to promote something and give this to people. And I don't know if he's changed the chocolates, kept the chocolates.
He didn't make the exact chocolates.
You didn't make new chocolates.
No,
Can I
they were-
see the box,
They were shipped
please?
back. And I want to point
Can
out
I
there were
see?
2 boxes that were shipped. She shipped back the second box with it never even opened it when she got it. It was completely closed the way we sent it.
Let's take a look at some of these randomly, all right?
And he never said they were each one was separate and they would have a different look, or I wouldn't have done it.
Well, let me ask you this question. Could you take a look at this one and tell me what's wrong with it?
All right, well, what I wanted to start to say was the chocolate... Okay.
Just look.
Yes.
Tell me what's wrong with that.
You have a little bit on the picture there.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like a little bit of a discoloration. What I wanted to start to say was these chocolates were shipped from the candy factory in North Hollywood to Arizona. They went from Arizona, I don't know how, to Solvang, and then shipped back from Solvang to the candy factory 3 weeks later. So they left, I packed them myself, they were great. I don't know what condition they were traveled by. This is perishable chocolate. Considering all the travel they
Well, then
had.
let me see. Is that the box that came back unopened?
Yes, I opened it before we came here to make sure.
May I see that
Yes.
box, please?
And it says on the side of the box.
Just a second. I don't care where it went to, before or after or whatever else. This one she opened. This one,
And she
according
removed
to
10 of those bars also and sent
this,
it back.
This one, according to you, she did not open.
Correct.
And it came back to you unopened.
Correct.
So she just opened the first one, took a look at them, saw some that were defective.
That's what she says.
Well, I see some that were defective. Here you say it may have happened later.
Correct.
So let's take a look randomly at some of these. Bird, take out some of these for me. Help me out here, would you? I went to law school for this.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Chocolate maker Frank Sheftel says Timmy DeRosa refuses to pay for the custom-made chocolate she ordered. Timmy says the chocolates were deformed.
Okay. Could you tell me why this makes your horse look deformed?
Well, this particular one doesn't. This one is faded. Would you hand this to somebody if this was the Judge Judy thing, a gavel, and your whole gavel was halfway off?
I wouldn't give somebody a picture of myself that they could eat.
Well, you know what? That...
And that's the point. These are edible. In 2 minutes, they're gone.
Then don't have beautiful ones to show.
Are you talking to each other? Don't irritate me. This case is irritating me enough.
You cannot just hand these out. There's some of them where their eyes are popped, where their eyes are bulgy. This is faded. You can't give this to somebody. These are multi-$1,000 horses. His stud fee's $3,000. We ship semen all over the country.
Could I please have that back? Listen, what I don't understand, Miss, I'm speaking. Mr. Sheftel, something that I don't understand from a business perspective. Thank you. She's absolutely right that they're faded. But shh, I'm speaking. They're all faded.
6 months old.
No, they're all faded. I have no idea what they looked like before, but certainly these are faded. I don't see that they're deformed, but this isn't an oil painting. This is done in chocolate. What I don't understand from a business perspective, Mr. Sheftel, is this was a customer of yours for 6 years.
Yes.
So if she says she's dissatisfied with this part of one order that she made, it seems to me good business practice would be to say, I'll take the chocolate, I'll either eat it, or I'll mix it up in a vat, or I'll make new chocolate out of it, or I'll do something with it, but I'm not going to lose a customer of 6 years over one order. So explain that to me, because I come from a retail family, and I don't understand
So do
that.
I. The candy factory's been in business for 23 years.
This is not an advertisement for
No,
you,
I
sir.
don't understand
So
that, but what I'm
explain
trying
me-
to say is we don't put out an inferior product. What you're seeing here is chocolate that is now 7 months old, okay? And it fades. Chocolate, as you know, fades. These were in prime condition. Maybe there was something wrong with the shipping. Maybe they were left in the sun. I don't know. When they were shipped back to me, I opened them, I looked at them. There was nothing wrong with them.
Listen, what would be the reason for the defendant, she had been a good customer, to order them and then send them back to you? She clearly liked what you did. She came to your place. She ordered it off.
She's called me since then to place another order. She called me 2 months ago to place an order.
No, what I said is do them right, and I will buy them.
No, your husband called me and asked me if he could place an order, and I said, we still have
An
this
order
outstanding.
for what?
For more chocolates.
No.
Hey! For what kind of chocolate?
We didn't even get that far.
Okay, because you said you still have this outstanding issue.
And another point I'd like to make is, she says that I could give them out as samples. I've shown them to people, actually. I do show them. I have one in the case. I think there's nothing wrong with them.
They're faded. Shh. They're faded and they're not great. And your customer didn't like them. I believe that she acted in good faith by returning them almost immediately. She said, I don't like the way they look.
It wasn't immediately. She took 10 or 15 out of one of the boxes.
Just a minute, did you take any out of the box?
When the boxes actually got there, everyone looked through them, and then they said, look, this one's deformed, this one's deformed, and the person that does the advertising...
Answer my question!
I don't know if there may be some out of the boxes that we handed out.
Well, then you pay for half. You can't use some. I don't care if you use 5 or 10 or 15 and say, I don't want the rest. The rest are no good.
No, that's not the point at all. That is not what happened at all.
It's exactly what happened.
No, it's not. Actually, I showed people how deformed they were.
And you didn't put them back. If you showed them how deformed they were, and you didn't put all the items back because somebody took them, somebody ate them.
I told you then.
Don't talk to him!
No, I told
Talk
Frank
to me.
then. I told him then. I said, count them when you get them. I would not go to hell over $20.
So some people did take some.
No, not as a promotional item.
I don't care what they took them as.
No, I did not hand them out. They were at the barn. And I said, we cannot use them. Look at this. And everyone said, these look awful. We called Frank. I had no...
Madam, you're not answering my question. I don't care whether you used them as a promotional item or whether you gave them away as Christmas presents or you gave them to the Easter Bunny. Somebody ate them, and it wasn't him. Okay, as I said to you, and I'm not going to waste another second on this case, I think it's very bad business to sue a good customer. But I also think that you can't accept partial order, use some of the partial order, send the other one back without even having opened it, and say, they're probably all no good. So, listen to what I'm telling you. You see the box that you didn't open? That's this box, Bert? Which box didn't she open? That one?
Yep.
And we took a whole bunch out of this, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Quiet! I don't want to hear another thing. I got important business to take care of. There. You see that box? This came from here. This one is his order. That one is his sample. You see that box? Give it to her. She just bought half an order. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $280. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He usually makes excellent products, and this time he didn't, and that's a shame.
It's a reflection of the horse. That's what the horse looks like. If it's deformed, it's because the horse is deformed.
Matter of Danilova versus Starry. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Young lady, have a seat, please.
Ms. Danilova, it is your claim that the defendant purposely damaged your car by throwing a coffee mug at it, which caused it to dent and something to crack. The defendant says he absolutely did that.
Yes, I did.
And he says he's got a good reason. So I have a few questions to ask you. I gather that you people really don't know each other.
No.
But you live in a house that's in a cul-de-sac, and you have a friend that lives in that cul-de-sac, whom you visit frequently.
Well, not anymore.
Well, you used to.
Yeah.
How old are you?
19.
And you've been told before by people that live on the street that you drive too quickly in this cul-de-sac. Is that a fair statement?
No.
Have you ever been found guilty of driving at an excessive rate of speed?
Yes.
Where?
Freeways, mostly.
How many speeding violations do you have?
Since I had my license.
So I assume that you were driving before you had your license. You're not going to tell me that. You're going to tell me after you had your license. How many speeding violations have you had?
I think like 7.
7?
Yes.
So it wouldn't be beyond a reasonable person's imagination that you drive too quickly in this cul-de-sac. Is that right?
Right.
So why don't you tell me what happened on the day that Mr. Starry threw a coffee mug at your car?
Me and my sister were driving to pick up my friend. As we were driving by Mr. Starry and his friends, I don't know, my windows were up, so all I heard was just a bunch of yelling, and I saw a bunch of people outside on the sidewalks in the street.
So that there were people out there. Were there adults and children?
I saw adults, mostly.
Or maybe you were going too fast to see the children.
No. It's the cul-de-sac that they live in. It's really hard to speed because it's at a curve, and there are cars
Most
parked.
cul-de-sacs are on a curve. That's what a cul-de-sac is.
Well,
so you went to pick up your friend, and what happened after you went to pick up your friend?
While we were in her house, some ladies came up to the door, said, you know, she was speeding, you know, slow down, and I acknowledged that.
So you acknowledged that you were going too fast?
Yes,
on that day.
I listened to them.
Why did you do it?
I mean, I wasn't speeding like going 30, I wasn't going over 35 miles an hour.
35 miles an hour is not what you do in a cul-de-sac. Then you left. In the car. You were driving. Is that right?
Yes.
And what happened?
As we were driving by Mr. Starry, something was thrown at my car. It bounced off, and that's when I stopped the car and got out to see what was going on.
Did you exchange words?
Yes, we did.
What were the words?
Well, he was just yelling at me to, I don't know if I could touch.
Slow down.
Well, he was just yelling and screaming and getting in my face. He didn't say it politely.
Okay, I'll hear you.
Your Honor, on the day in question, I was inside my house when she came into the neighborhood, and my wife and 2 neighbor ladies went to the door and knocked on the door and asked her to slow down. What they reported to me was they laughed and slammed the door in their face. When I heard
That sounds right.
When I heard that, I got irritated. When she backed out of her driveway and screeched her tires to come up the cul-de-sac, without really even any consideration, I stepped out in front of her and threw my coffee cup at her car.
Can I say something about what he said?
Sure.
That car could not screech tires if you tried because it's a Corolla and it was an automatic. When the ladies came up to the door, it was my friend's mother who actually opened the door. And I don't think she would slam the door in their face.
Did you
She
laugh
came
at
up
her?
to us saying, there's ladies outside saying you guys were speeding. We're like, well, okay.
Is that what you said, like, well, okay?
Well, my friend came up to the door to talk to them, and they were just yelling and screaming, saying, you're speeding, you're speeding.
And you said, well, okay.
I said, okay, I understand. You know, what else am I supposed to say?
Okay. Now, would it be a fair statement that prior to this incident, you would go and pick up your friends pretty often?
Almost daily.
Now, after this incident, would it be a fair statement that you don't go to pick up your friend anymore?
Yes.
No.
Shh, just a second. I'm sorry. That you don't go there every day anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't go there every day anymore because you're frightened to go on that street.
No, don't go on that street anymore because he constantly harasses me. I've had this whole summer.
So that you are frightened to go on that street because he harasses you. And you're afraid what might happen?
Yeah, he's threatened me before.
Not before this incident,
Not
you
before
said.
this incident,
Afterwards. So it would be fair to say that as a result of him throwing a mug at your car, you don't go to pick up your friend anymore.
Yes, you can say that.
So you accomplished your purpose. Is that right? Just answer my question. So you accomplished your purpose. You don't have to worry. Just listen to me. You don't have to worry about her as you did previously.
Now it's that way, Your Honor, but it wasn't that way until after, I would say, June or July.
Fine, but then you've accomplished what you wanted to accomplish. Is that
but I
right?
finally had to take her to another court for attempting to run me over in the street.
But now she doesn't come back.
Finally, yes, and I'm happy with that.
Now, I absolutely think that each of you should bear a certain responsibility with regard to this incident. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes.
Good. I'm awarding you $1. The rest of it's your fault. That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That dollar thing was totally uncalled for.
I'm happy.
I did what he wanted me to do. I stopped coming over there. I stopped speeding.
I'm happy with that. That's what I wanted.
And now the next case.
All parties on Arredondo versus Bradley. Step forward, please.
20-year-old student Genevieve Arredondo is suing her former friend, 22-year-old telemarketer Tylen Bradley, for the cost of a tuxedo rental and a traffic ticket.
Ms. Arredondo, you know the defendant since high school, according to your papers, for a long time. You were friends, maybe a little bit more. You claim a series of small loans to the defendant over a short period of time, several months ago. One for some tickets and then one for a tuxedo rental. The whole big case is about $150.
Yes, ma'am.
So, two of you must not have anything special to do with your time other than come to court over $150, but I'm prepared to hear you. When was the first loan?
July 21st of 2000.
For what?
The tuxedo rental for $68.78.
What was that for?
Mr. Bradley was participating in a wedding, and he was unemployed at the moment, and I told him I would let him borrow the money so he could buy the tuxedo.
You didn't buy a tuxedo?
Rent the tuxedo, I'm sorry.
Put on your credit card?
Yeah, I did. Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
you wore the tuxedo?
Yes, I wore a tuxedo.
Did you ask her for the money for the tuxedo?
Well, actually, what had happened was we was discussing it, and I had told her what had happened to why I wasn't able to get it, and she told me, well, if
Why
you need
weren't
help.
you able to get it?
Well, because at the time I wasn't employed regularly, and also I had some money stolen from me that I had saved to get it, and so she said, well, she'll be able to help me. Well, she didn't actually know at the time if she would be able to, but if she could, she would. Then she came back to me and said that she would be able to, and so I accepted because I was going to be best man, so I needed a tuxedo.
Did you say you'd pay her back?
No, at that time there was no discussion of me paying her back.
Why not?
Because, as my understanding, she was doing it out the kindness of her heart.
No.
Did you say to her, that's really very nice of you. When I have the money, I'll pay you back?
No, there was no, like I said, there was no discussion over any repayment.
When did he say he would pay you back? Look at me.
He didn't say a specific date.
He didn't say, I'll pay you back. Did you expect to go to this wedding with him?
No.
Didn't think he was going to ask you to take you to the wedding?
I thought he would have asked, but he never did.
Right. You thought he would have asked, paid for the tuxedo, maybe he'd ask you to go to the wedding, then you'd go together. What's the next one? Come on, let me hear.
A month later, he had an outstanding ticket, and he told me he didn't have the money again to pay it, and he said if he didn't pay it, he was going to get a warrant for his arrest. So my stepbrother gave me $80. I put it into my account, or $88. I put it into my account and made a check to Metropolitan Court, and I gave it to Mr. Bradley.
And when did he say he would pay you back?
I just said, whenever you get a job, you can pay me back.
Is that what you said to him, whenever you get a job?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, where are you working?
Right now?
Yeah.
MCI, man.
When did you get that job?
In January.
So why don't you pay her back this money for the ticket?
Because it wasn't a loan. I mean, the whole reason why I think that she even wants the money was because of the fact, like, you going back to the wedding, was that I did not invite her.
Okay, forget the wedding.
Okay,
forget the
wedding.
tuxedo.
Okay,
I don't believe that was a loan.
Okay. So,
But
I mean,
if you have
back
a
to
warrant issued for your arrest, and you can get out of having the warrant issued for your arrest by getting $88 from her, you take $88 from her, why don't you give her back the money?
because, again, it wasn't a loan. I mean, she just did it, like, to help me out.
Why would she want to just help you out?
Because, I mean, we were friends. I mean, maybe, she thought there was a little bit more. Maybe she wanted a little bit more. But we were just friends, and the whole talk about repayment wasn't brought up until I had moved in with the mother of my daughter. Then that's when she started saying, well, I need to be paid back. You need to pay me back. You said you was going to pay me back.
If somebody helps you out because they like you and they don't want you to go to jail, then the honorable thing to do, the nice thing to do, but most of all the honorable thing to do, the just thing to do, is to pay him back the money. Now this tuxedo business, as I said to you, I think she thought that she would get to go to the party with you. You didn't invite her. That wasn't really nice. However, it's different when you say, unless you give me the money, I'm going to go to jail.
No, I did not say that to her. She asked me what happens if you don't pay it. Then I told her that.
What did you tell her?
Then I told her that it'll turn into a war and eventually I will go to jail.
Grow up. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $88. Get a life, sir. That's all.
Parties are excused.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Holiday, Presley versus Llewellyn. Step forward, please.
30-year-old court collector Laura Holliday and 20-year-old Autumn Presley are suing 23-year-old cashier Erica Llewellyn for attorney's fees resulting from a false police report. Erica claims Laura and Autumn keyed her car.
Who is Miss Halliday?
I am.
And Miss Priestley, that's...
Presley.
Presley? Mm-hmm. Okay. According to your complaint, you believe that the defendant falsely accused you of keying her car, as a result of which you were arrested, had to hire an attorney, and ultimately, I assume, found not guilty. And you want her to pay the attorney's fees and some small amount for harassment. The defendant says she believes she had good cause to notify the police of your involvement in vandalizing her car. So the first thing I have to know is, how do you ladies know each other?
My husband has a son with her.
Your husband has a child with the defendant?
Correct.
How long are you married?
3 years.
How old is your child?
He'll be 4 in February.
And you?
A child also with her husband.
And you have a child with her husband?
Her husband.
With her husband? And how old is your child?
She will be 4 in March.
He must have been very busy 4 years ago. Do you have any children with him?
No.
Okay, so that's how you know each other. Each of you have 4-year-olds with her husband.
Yes.
And you two are friends.
Mm-hmm.
When did this alleged incident of vandalizing your car take place?
In between the dates of March 16th and to the 18th of 2001.
On the 16th, the car was okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you find on the 18th?
I had really bad key marks on both sides of my car. I had it on the trunk and on the hood.
Can I see pictures of it? Do you have pictures?
I do not have pictures.
Do you have a police report?
Yes, I do.
Can I see the police report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I assume there's no question that you contacted the police and gave the police at some point the plaintiffs' names as the perpetrators of this act of vandalism.
Yes,
when did you do that? How much after the incident?
Almost a week.
It was on the 26th of March.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So what happened on the 26th of March that suggested to you that the two plaintiffs were responsible for the damage?
My next door neighbor, I hadn't talked to her within that week, came over.
Told you something?
Yeah.
Is your next door neighbor here?
No, she's not.
Well, that's interesting, because your testimony with regard to that would be hearsay. However, there are certain exceptions to the hearsay rule. And one of those exceptions is, if I don't take it for the truth of the statement, but merely that it was said to you that caused you to do something else, which in this case would be to call the police, I can hear what she told you and then make a determination myself as to whether or not she actually told it to you.
Okay.
Not whether she saw it, but whether she told it to you. All right, so you had a conversation with your neighbor. Tell me what your neighbor said to you.
She told me that Saturday night that she seen a white Jeep parked across the street, and she sat there and watched them for a little bit, and she said she seen them walk over and key my car and then take off laughing.
Did she describe the people?
She did describe the people. She actually said they were both white. She said that they had long hair and they were a little bit thick. Well, I don't know how to explain it, but they were bigger women.
Do you have any police reports?
These are the copies of what she has as her statement.
She didn't give me anything but one sheet of paper. Okay. Is there any interview in this police report from your neighbor?
No, the neighbors, none of her witnesses showed up in the court either that dismissed the case.
My neighbor is extremely sick.
That doesn't prevent the police from going and taking a statement.
Right. When I told them who it was and where she was, they did not even take any kind of initiative to talk to her.
I have a statement from the car dealership. My car was in the shop the week of the 15th to the 20th.
Let me see. So you actually never went to trial in this case?
No.
To whom it may concern, this Jeep Cherokee was at Extreme Auto Credit Inc. for repairs. Did you show this to the police?
The police never contacted us. We gave it to our attorney.
Yeah. Now, what would make you think that these two, other than this statement, which I find difficult to believe because the fact that this alleged witness who told you about what she saw couldn't come to this court today, there's certainly no reason why this witness couldn't go to a local court, right?
Yeah, but
Okay.
she's extremely sick.
Well, maybe she's too sick to see what she said she saw. What would make you think that these two women would do such a thing to your car?
I've had problems with Miss Halliday for years, and just this year I just started having problems with Miss Priestley.
Why would you have problems with them?
I've been back and forth in court for like the last 4 years because
what?
she's taken me to court for stuff that she has said I've done that I haven't.
Like what?
Like judgments. She's took me to court for trying to get restraining orders against me several times.
Yeah.
She stated that I stalked her and all this, and I've never stalked her.
Couple of basic questions. Put your papers down. Did you ladies know each other before you had this mutual Don Juan? What's his name, by the way, your husband?
Ernie.
Ernie. Before Ernie, did you ladies know each other?
No.
No.
So it would be fair to say that any disputes that you've had, and I assume that there have been some negative feelings about children, child support, visitation, seeing all these children, that without Ernie, you would not have any problems with each other. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, probably.
Do these children visit Ernie?
Yeah, Ernie has full custody of 2 of them.
Of both of these children?
No. He had joint with her. We have a custody trial coming up in April.
So the child lives with
me.
You. And what about your child?
Mine lives with him.
Lives with Ernie? And lives with you?
Correct.
For how long?
About a year now.
Ernie has other children?
Yes.
How many more children does Ernie have?
Ernie has 5 children.
Ernie has 5. She says 6.
By 5 different people. We also had I was with Ernie for 6 years before them two had got together, and we had a daughter together that unfortunately passed away.
That was the 6th,
Yes,
I assume that you're talking about. You think you're going to stay with Ernie forever?
I don't know.
If I were an odds maker, I would say no. So I'm going to give you all a little bit of advice. You didn't ask me for it, but you're here, and you're a captive audience, so I'm going to tell you. You're making a fool over yourselves, each of you, for somebody that's probably not worth being a doormat for you to wipe your feet on.
I agree.
I mean, the fact that you got snookered in by this thing for some periods of time, for 4 years, for 5 years, for a year, it's a mistake. But to be involved in litigation, to be involved in harassing each other, just ridiculous. Don't you agree? You got to put a stop to it.
Yes, ma'am, I agree.
We tried at one point. We were getting along at one point, and I loaned her money to get her license back and such, and she never paid me back. That's what one of the court cases was about.
She never gave me a chance to pay her back.
Whatever. So it seems to me, this sounds almost like a communal marriage. Listen, you all don't have to really like each other. The fact that you have this common thread in Ernie is unfortunate, but it doesn't make you family. I mean, I assume you have to go over there to pick up your child who Ernie has custody of. Do you have other children?
Yes, I do.
How many other children?
I have 2 other children.
Where do they live?
With me.
Well, why does this child live with Ernie?
Because Ernie has custody of her.
Did you voluntarily give Ernie custody of the 4-year-old?
Yes, I did.
Why would you do that?
Because we were going through court at the time, and they were trying to have me pay for something that I shouldn't have been paying for
Like
when...
what?
I think it was from when she was born, and he just took over the responsibility to pay the bill. So In order for him to take over the bill, he had to have custody.
Come on, you're being a little obtuse here. Give it to me straight.
That's
no,
why he got custody.
No.
Yes.
No. You mean if he pays the bill, he gets custody? That's why they gave him custody? Was that your contract with him? Was that your agreement with him?
No, it wasn't a contract.
Bunch of wackos. You're all a bunch of wackos. You have no case. She probably had grounds to call in a report that she believed that you had damaged her car. The fact that your car may have been in the shop, may not have been in the shop, that also was hearsay, by the way, the letter that you gave me. And you probably have done the same thing to her. How many times have you been to court with her?
I went to court with her a few times. One time was when she kicked in my door and came at me with a butcher knife. The other time was when the police had to remove her from my property.
So you've been involved a few times with each other?
Yes, ma'am. That was the same day that she was talking.
Listen, you want to make fools over yourselves.
I don't.
With regard to Ernie's tentacles, you're going to continue to do that.
I have
and I
nothing to
can't
do with
help
Ernie.
you, but we certainly aren't going to reward you. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
All parties on Moeller versus Stevens. Step forward, please.
Commercial pilot Doug Moeller is suing his neighbors, Roger and Jackie Stevens, and their son, 17-year-old Brian. Doug says Brian purposefully damaged his daughter's bicycle. The Stevens are countersuing for the cost of a bike and damage to their screen door.
Mr. Moeller, it is your claim that the defendant's son damaged your daughter's bike.
That's correct.
The defendant says that he caused no damage to the bike, and they are counterclaiming because they say that their daughter's bike was stolen from your backyard and it's your fault. B, that your son tore a hole in their screen door. You weren't there during this bike incident?
No, ma'am, I wasn't.
I'd like you to sit down.
Okay.
And your children up here. Now, you weren't present either, is that right?
Correct.
So you can sit down, leaving the alleged perpetrator standing. When did this happen?
Around midsummer last year.
Tell me about the day.
We went over to see my cousin that we always play with.
You have to speak up because I can't hear you. Tell me your first name.
Timothy Moeller.
All right, Timothy, keep your voice up. You hear the way I'm talking?
Yeah.
Try to do it.
Okay.
Good. Okay, go ahead.
Brian started jumping up and down on the bike.
That's Brian.
Yeah.
What were you doing on the bike?
I was sitting on it. I've never seen a bike like that before, so I was testing out the shocks.
Testing out the shocks.
Right.
And how, Brian, were you testing out the shocks?
I bounced up and down on the seat a couple times and lifted the front tire off the ground about 2 inches and then let it go.
It was a girl's bike, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't.
It was a boy's bike.
Yeah.
Big or little?
It was big. It was a 20-inch.
Your Honor, could I give you a photograph of the bicycle as
Yes,
evidence?
I'd like to see it.
This is a photograph of the bicycle with the bicycle license, and it shows that these are actually children's bicycles. Quite a bit smaller than an adult would be riding.
Mm-hmm. Small?
I didn't think it was.
Small?
Okay.
Okay. Who told you you could get on the bike?
Nobody.
Can I see the wheel, please? How old are you?
17. I
So
was 16
get a job
at
and
the time.
pay for the wheel. Wheel's all bent. Wheel's all bent. Would you step up, sir? Okay. We'll make very quick work of this part of the case. Your son got on a bike without permission, tested out the springs, didn't ride it the way it was supposed to be ridden, and they say as a result of that the wheel was broken. So?
Well, according to my witness, my daughter and my son, when he got off, it was still on the kickstand. She got back on it. She rode home on it. We felt that if he had done it, she would have went home. If she'd have done it right then, she'd have went home and told her father, hey, Brian just damaged my bike. But the story that we got is that the next day or so, he noticed the damage, came to the children and said, what happened to your bike? We're not sure. We think maybe when Brian was on it, you know, and so we just don't feel that he did it. It may have happened later. And,
Well, what you feel is irrelevant.
Okay.
Relevant facts are he got on a bike without permission. He was testing the shocks.
Okay.
He's a big boy. He jumped up and down. I mean, at least he's telling the truth. Now, when you went to ride the bike home, did you see anything different in riding the bike?
The bicycle wheel was rubbing up against the side of the bike.
And did you feel that before he had gotten on the bike to test it?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Okay, so now I need the bill. I mean, it's not malicious, it's not terrible, but you pay the bill. $106, is that what it cost?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Now, let's get, what?
Your Honor, could I speak for just a second, please?
Sure.
What we've heard here is in a large part a fabrication. In fact, I'd like to call Michelle Stevens as a witness, if I could, please.
Just a second, sir, you just won your case. Why do you have to call
Well,
anything?
I know, but there's a little bit more than $106 involved here.
What?
It cost me $27 to file this in small claims court in Wichita, Kansas.
Oh, okay.
And there was more damage to it than just the wheel. The handlebar extensions were damaged, the pedals were damaged, the bicycle seat was torn up.
But I asked for the bill to fix it.
Yeah, you got the bill.
You
That's
got
correct.
the bill,
Yes, ma'am.
$106.40.
That's correct.
That's the bill that you gave me.
That's correct.
So?
Well, I guess that's the end of the story then.
That's the end of the story.
All right.
You just
Okay.
won. Sit.
Very good.
This is not a major toxic waste pollution case.
I understand.
A bent bicycle wheel. All right, let me get to the bottom line of your case, which I've read. Let me see if I understand it. Your daughter was playing over at their house. The plaintiff wanted to go someplace. And according to you, he said to the kids, why don't you just put the bikes in the backyard? The daughter put her bike in their backyard. The bike was stolen. And based on that, you believe it's his fault.
His responsibility.
No, that's wrong. How old is your daughter?
13,
So she had the capacity to say, I'm going to go put my bike in my garage?
which she did. And he said, no, just put it in our backyard. We won't be gone very long. And both of the girls' bicycles got stolen.
You want to go further and tell me about this torn screen?
This is just
When did that
what I
happen?
get from the kids. This was last summer.
Did you tear the screen in Mr. Stevens' house?
No, ma'am.
You have a witness with regard to the torn screen?
Yes. My
I'll
son.
hear you, Brian.
I was inside the house, and these two kids and my sister were inside, and I was trying to watch TV, and they were being loud, so they went outside. I locked the door, so they were locked out. I heard a noise at my window, and I opened the curtain, and Timothy was there with a stick poking a hole through.
Did you poke a hole through the screen?
Uh-uh.
Did you replace the screen?
No, but I have an estimate to have it replaced.
You went through a whole summer with a screen with a hole in it from a stick?
Yes, ma'am.
Get a patch. I can understand why you're aggravated, but it's unfortunate that people who had a rather pleasant relationship have any tension because of this. That's your fault. They're all a lot younger than you are. So the first thing that happened was you locked your sister and her two friends out of the house because you wanted to watch television in peace. Is that what happened with the screen? Stupid. Then you got on a bike, jumped up and down on the bike, not your bike, and bent the wheel. Also, stupid. As a result of that, two families, which had, I assume, gotten along reasonably well together if you let your daughter go with the plaintiff before, have any kind of friction now. Very, very stupid. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $133. The counterclaims dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. This is case number 116 on the calendar in the matter of O'Connor versus Butler. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Miss O'Connor, I've read your complaint very carefully. Last June, you became ill and you were hospitalized. And you developed some severe complications. You have a child, a boy. How old is your boy?
He's 8.5.
When you went into the hospital, you left your son with your father. With whom?
My two sons, and there's another older teenager.
They were clearly unable to take care of him because your father, at some point, gave guardianship of your son to your cousins who were the defendants. Is that right?
Yes.
When was that? When did you take physical custody of the boy?
August 19th.
You were released when in August?
The 30th of August.
Then there was some issue as to whether they were going to give you the child back. On what day did you actually turn custody back over to the mother?
November 17th, 2000.
Your claim is as follows, Miss O'Connor. You say that about a year and a half or so ago, you sold your cousins 2 Cocker Spaniels and they've never paid you. The second part of your claim is you say that they didn't return some of your son's clothing when they finally turned custody back over to you. That's your claim. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Let's deal with the dogs first. When did you give the dogs to the Butlers?
It was around June, early June.
June of what year?
2000, I believe.
How old were the dogs?
One was 2 and one was 4. It was a mother and daughter.
Why could you no longer care for these 2 dogs?
Her dog, Bucky, was a Cocker Spaniel and it died. So this is the reason why I didn't give it to her. She said she'd pay me back. She would pay me.
I'm asking you a question. You've got 2 dogs, 2 and 4 years old, that are living with you, that I assume you're attached to. Why did you get rid of the dogs?
She told me she'd have a better home for them and that she could groom them herself. It was very expensive to groom them for me because I had it done.
So that's why you weren't able to take care of the dogs. You didn't want to do the grooming anymore.
Right.
Right. Now, what makes you think, first of all, these dogs are worth $200 a piece, which is what you...
$375 for the mother.
Yes.
And sold her puppies for $250.
So?
That's what I bought the dog for.
Okay. I'll hear you. Go ahead. Let's hear about the dogs first.
As far as the dogs, we were there on a Sunday. She was about ready to put the dogs in the paper. And I told her I would take them. Yes, Bucky did pass away. But that's not why I wanted them, is because they needed a home.
Well, what was she going to put them in the paper for?
To sell them for money. My husband was there and my daughter was there as witnesses. She says, go ahead and take the dogs. They're very neglected. She couldn't take care of them anymore.
Nobody buys a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old dog, madam, for $200 apiece. That's where you read for adoption. Can't take care of them anymore. These are adult dogs. Let's leave the dogs for a second. You went into the hospital. You've got 2 sons. You've got somebody else. How come your child ended up with your cousins?
My father took it upon himself. He didn't say, can I have them or anything. He took them out of the home. He dumped out 7 full-size drawers of Gabriel's clothes.
There must have been a reason for that, Miss O'Connor. How old are your sons?
20, 18, and 8.5.
20 and 18?
Yes.
So your father probably was using his brain and figured out that your 8-year-old wasn't being properly taken care of by your 20-year-old son and your 18-year-old son. Don't you think that's possible?
He was going to school every day.
Miss O'Connor, what do you possibly think motivated your father to come and take him out of the house when the mother isn't there and you got 2 teenage boys in the house in charge of an 8-year-old? What do you think your father was thinking? He wanted to do something to spite you?
Yes.
Yes? You the 2 sons?
I'm one of them.
Which one, 18 or 20?
18.
Step up. Were you there when your grandfather came and took your little brother?
Yes, I was.
Tell me about that. Did you have a conversation with him?
Yes, he said we wouldn't be able to afford food for him, so he would come and take him and bring him into a better home where they could take care of him a little bit better.
And what did you say?
I said, okay.
Good. Sit down. By the way, were you working?
No,
What about your 20-year-old brother? Was he working?
not at the time.
So how were you living?
On what was in the kitchen.
That's why your father took your son, turned him over to cousins who took care of him.
But wouldn't give him back.
Well, evidently they felt as if he had been a little neglected, madam.
Yes, ma'am. They wouldn't give him back.
Ultimately, a court gave him back to you. Is that right?
Yes.
But not right away.
I had to go through 3 courts.
But not right away.
Right.
While you were in the hospital, you say that they took care of him for 3 weeks. Did you thank them?
Yes.
When did you thank them?
Over the phone.
Did you say, do I owe you any money?
She got his checks.
What checks?
His Social Security. His father had died.
Yes.
My husband died. So he got the Social Security.
Right.
money. That's what she was getting.
How many Social Security checks did you get? Yes.
Ma'am, I've had him since August 19th. I didn't get paid until October, November. All of August and September, I did it from my heart.
How did you manage to get a check for October?
I went to Rancho Cucamonga Police Department and went to court. They gave me temporary custody. That's what opened the doors for that boy.
Month of August, month of September, she got no money. Where were his checks going in August and September?
August, I'm in the hospital. I got it August. I got one September.
Where did the money go?
In my bank account.
Well, why didn't you send them the money?
I wasn't talking to her by then. She couldn't talk to me.
Okay.
She got too hostile.
All right. A, let's forget about the dogs. You gave the dogs away because you couldn't take care of them. Ages 2 and 4 years old. Not worth $400 or $500. Absolutely not. And not only that, but you didn't even ask for them back.
Yes, I did.
When? When?
When she started talking to me when I had child visitations with my son Gabriel.
When you were angry with her?
I wasn't angry. She was angry.
When you were angry with her because she wouldn't give your son back?
She was angry that I got visitations to my son to take him every Saturday. And that's a 2.5-hour drive.
So that's when you asked for your dogs back?
Yeah, she only had one. The other one she sold.
Did you sell?
I gave her away because she had a howling problem.
Who did you give the dog to?
It was a lady in the newspaper.
I would like the dogs back.
Well, you can't have them back. Gave them away. All right, let's talk about clothes. What clothes do you say they have?
My dad emptied out in trash bags 7 full-size drawers, his socks, underwear, everything was taken.
Right.
And when I finally won the last battle, November 17th, I got 2 trash bags, 2 little trash bags of clothes. Plus, it was his birthday. I bought him all kinds of stuffed toys and everything, and I didn't see any of that come back.
How much does Gabriel get from Social Security?
$557
a month.
Yes.
Okay. That's about $1,100 for the 2 months that your son was with them that you put in your bank, right? You put that money in your bank, right? Money that was supposed to go for the support. I'm speaking. Money that was supposed to go for the support of the child, you put in your checking account.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kathy O'Connor is suing her cousins, Linda and Lonnie Butler, for the cost of 2 Cocker Spaniels and the return of property.
You took your son's money and you put it in your bank account. So if you have to buy more clothes for him, go buy more clothes for him. Do you think I'm going to get involved in underwear, 6 pairs of underwear, 3 pairs of shoes, a pair of sneakers? I have no intention of doing that. As far as I'm concerned, when somebody takes charge of your child because you're incapable of doing it, what do you want?
The thing is, when my grandpa came over, he said he was going to take care of him.
What difference does it make? You're 18. If you were grown up and mature and responsible, and it's the summertime, one of you goes out, gets a job, act responsibly so that your grandfather wouldn't have had to worry about your 8-year-old brother. You weren't going to do it, and she's in the hospital.
He was fine.
Oh, yeah, he was fine. I don't believe that a grandfather comes over and takes it upon himself to remove a baby, little boy, 8 years old, from a house where he thinks the child is thriving.
He was getting fed.
What do you want? Who are you?
Why isn't he? I'm Linda's son. Why isn't he here to testify about this?
I have no idea why he's not here. Maybe nobody brought him here. All I'm telling you is,
maybe he doesn't want to
she didn't take... You're whose son?
Linda's son.
Her son.
Her son?
Yes.
Were you available to take care of the 8-year-old?
At the time, I didn't know about it. I was overseas.
So what do you know now?
What I know now?
What do you know now?
About the situation going on where she had kidnapped a child.
Sit down. There was a court order, sir, when the court had at least some facts before it.
Some manipulation.
I'm speaking, which gave them temporary custody. Now, in order to establish that you're going to give a child to biological strangers, at least not a mother and father, or father, there has to be some overriding neglect or abuse or abandonment. And unless you can prove any of those 3 things, long-term neglect, abuse, or abandonment, the child has to go back to the biological parent, even if the biological parent is not so terrific. Clearly, a court in October, when faced with certain facts, said, we want to take a more careful look at this situation before we return this child, so they gave them temporary custody. As far as I'm concerned, there should be a thank you here instead of a lawsuit. Your case is dismissed, that's all.
Thank you,
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you. To me, the evil snake needs to go on with her life.
He's not the same kid anymore.
He's a very neglected child.
Yeah, this is case number 364 on the calendar in the matter of Bruce versus West. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
All right, the facts in this case are relatively simple. What is your first name?
My name is Kira Bruce.
Kira, you are 17 years old.
Yes.
Decided you wanted a tattoo.
Correct.
You went to the defendant's tattoo parlor.
Sure. That's acceptable.
And presented him with a fake ID and got your tattoo.
Yes.
Then you came home and your mother had a Shrek. You know what a Shrek is? She had a fit.
Good. I thought that was a movie.
Well, somebody took the word and made a movie out of it. But she had a fit. And you and your mother are suing the defendant because your mother believes that he should pay for at least half of the cost of removing the tattoo. Is that what this case is about?
That's exactly what it's about.
Easy. I have a few questions. When did you get the tattoo, Kira?
The beginning of October.
Had you ever had a tattoo before?
I had started one a few days before I got the one at Body Bazaar, yes.
You mean you started one but didn't finish it?
Correct.
At a different tattoo parlor?
Correct.
Why didn't you finish it?
I was nervous and I just kind of got up and paid him and left.
Okay. So the beginning of October, you got this tattoo. What does it say? What is it?
It's my last name. It's
Bruce?
Yes. And then
You don't have a boyfriend named Bruce.
No.
Yeah, she told us.
We don't shout out in court. Now, when you went in, did you go in alone? Were you with someone else?
I was alone.
And you saw the defendant?
Oh, I never met Dave West until it all came back with my parents.
Okay. You saw somebody else who worked in the shop?
Yes.
Is that person in court today?
Yes.
Which one? Raise your hand.
Both of them?
You. Were you the one who did the work?
Yep, did the verse tattoo on her, yes.
Okay, could you step up, please? Tell me your name.
Kevin Augustine. How you doing?
Don't ask me questions. I
Kevin
ask questions.
Augustine.
Augustine.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Augustine, when Kira came into the shop, did you ask her for identification?
Yeah, that's normal procedure.
What did
Give
you
us-
say to her?
They give us California driver's license and they fill out a consent form.
Do you have her form?
Yeah, we do.
May I have it, please?
There's 2 separate ones for the 2 different dates that she came in.
She came in on 2 dates.
2 different occasions.
So you didn't finish on the first date and she came back?
No, she started the tattoo at a tattoo studio a few doors down. Then she came to us and got the tattoo she had started at the other studio. She
Finished.
got colored in. Then about a
came
month,
back for
maybe
the
about a
second
month
one.
later, she came back in, brought the same ID, presented her ID, and got a whole nother separate tattoo.
Okay. Do you have the driver's license that you presented to the defendants when you
It
got
was not
this
a
tattoo?
driver's license, it was a California ID.
California ID.
Yes, we do have that, and if you'll note, the person going in actually fills out the information. On the first copy of October 1st, her date of birth is listed as 8/19/01. On the consent form dated October 3rd, it's 9/18/83.
Oh, okay.
So,
Not very hard. Now, she came home to see you, and she showed you the tattoo?
no, she didn't actually. I had been in Southern California for 9 weeks caring for my father, who just recently passed away.
Who was staying with her?
Her father and her brother. But when I returned home, my house was a shambles, teenagers and a dad that eats pizza. So I happened to stroll through her room and I looked down on the floor and I saw a letter. It was folded and I picked it up and it said, "I love my tattoo," a little heart. So I thought I better read the rest of this letter. And I said, "Dear James, sorry. I hope you're not mad at me for getting another tattoo." And then I ricocheted off of the walls. And so when I picked her up from dance that evening, I confronted her about it, and she showed me these tattoos. Then after that, we went to visit the tattoo parlors.
Miss Bruce, I'm going to stop you there. When are you going to be 18, Kara?
September 3rd.
Not so far away. Do you still like your tattoos?
Yes, I do.
Now, your mother wants you to have them removed. Is that a painful procedure?
Yes.
Look, she got these false IDs. I'm not going to even ask her where she got these IDs from. She presented them. She doesn't look as if she's 12 years old. She certainly looks as if she could be over the age of 18. And as long as she acknowledges, and I have certainly here in writing, she signed giving her consent, indicating, swearing to the fact that she was over the age of 18. Sometimes people, when they write their date of birth, transpose the current year, 01, for their actual date of birth. The answer is yes. So they did what they were supposed to do. The only one who didn't do what they were supposed to do was your daughter.
Okay.
Your daughter. And your daughter is 17. In less than a year, she's going to be 18. She's going to be of the age of majority. Why wouldn't you, instead of bringing this lawsuit against the defendants, say to your daughter, you have to accept responsibility for what you did. You either got or passed off a fake ID. You knew that you weren't supposed to do this. This is something that in our house, in any event, we would oppose, and you did it anyway. And you did it in a sneaky fashion. Now you've got these tattoos. If you want to have them removed, get a job, pay for them to have them removed when you're 18. We're not talking about a 6-year-old child. We're talking about someone who is 7 or 8 months away from being a legal adult. Why do you think that these people are responsible?
It was my understanding that she did not show an ID to Kevin, that the only person who saw her ID at any time in this tattoo parlor was an apprentice by the name of Andrew or Dave.
Doesn't make any difference, Mrs. Bruce. Someone at the tattoo parlor said to her, "Can I see your ID?" She said, "Yes, here's my ID." Then they had her fill out a form. Now, the person who actually did the tattoo didn't have to recheck, just as if you go into a hospital and you're having surgery, you go into an admitting office In the admitting office, you fill out all kinds of forms, including consent forms. When you're laying on the operating table, the surgeon doesn't say to you, by the way, I'd like to see your identification and fill out some forms again. They're done before, so that when you go in for the procedure, it's all finished. All that paperwork is all finished. Your daughter did the wrong thing. Do I look like I need help from you?
No.
Then why are you raising your hand?
I just wanted to add something to it. I had tattooed on her also. If you look at the...
Just a minute.
Okay.
I didn't say yes.
Okay. I apologize.
Do you understand? What I'm saying to you, wait 10 months, and if she wants to have the tattoo removed, she'll have it removed. Don't be mad at them. You gotta be mad at her.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Irene Bruce says Dave West owes for removing a tattoo from her 17-year-old daughter, Kira. Dave says Kira used a fake ID.
Okay. You got to put the blame where it belongs. The blame belongs with your daughter. If she had gone into that tattoo parlor and nobody said to her, let me see your ID, I say, you got a case. But they asked for her ID. She had a fake ID.
That looks nothing like her, I'm sorry.
I want to tell you something. I like to look at my driver's license and say it looks nothing like me, too. I look at my passport and I say, who is this person?
Right.
All right? So.
But she is neither 5'3" or 100 pounds. And if
I lie on my passport, I lied on my driver's license. I've been 100 pounds now since I was 8 years old. It doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
It's her responsibility. You can't transfer that to them.
Okay.
But if she wants to take it off, let her get a job.
Okay,
Let her pay for it.
She does. Okay. The other thing, when I visited the tattoo parlor, I spoke with Kevin. We called Dave, who said if he was going to have to pay to have this tattoo removed, that he wanted the sheriff called and my daughter arrested. I did call the sheriff from the studio. There were 3 officers that were present. They did state that it was a civil matter and that we needed to resolve it between us.
Because you wanted your daughter arrested.
Don't speak to her. Look at me.
So I can't abide lies when presented in front of me, ma'am.
Don't
Thank
speak.
you.
I can't abide speaking out. Go ahead.
I did tell the officer that if they needed to arrest her, she needed to be responsible for her actions, and whatever their decision was, she would have to live with it. But they advised us to work it out in an amicable way. So Dave West did sign an agreement to pay half of the cost of the removal of the tattoos that were put on her body by Body Bazaar. He also requested that I obtain an estimate for the cost of the removal of the tattoos.
Just a minute.
Which I did.
You signed this on October 27th that you would help pay half the cost of removal of her tattoos? Sir, this is your
Yes,
handwriting?
basically I signed. I was forced into signing it. There's 3 cop cars in my driveway blocking my driveway to my business. She said basically that she wasn't going to leave until I signed a piece of paper saying that I would help her pay for it. I got people trying to pull in my driveway. They can't come in. I'm losing business.
Listen to me, sir. All you do is go outside and say to the police, I have asked this woman to leave my shop. She refuses to leave my shop. She is now trespassing. Have her removed.
I wasn't aware of that. I did.
Well,
I was under a lot of stress. I had 3 cops at my business.
You may have been a lot of other stress,
I had
but
an
you signed
angry
this.
mother
But
forcing me. I was
you
being
signed
under
this piece of paper.
I sure did, under duress. I was basically forced into it. I was under a lot of stress. I had cops at my business.
Mr. West, ignorance of the law is no excuse. I would dismiss the case. I'm telling you right now, this case would be over. I don't believe it's your responsibility. But you agreed to not pay half. It says, I, Dave West, will help pay half of the cost of removal of the tattoos. He doesn't say he's going to pay half. He says he'll help pay half. Now, that may be semantics, but since I feel as if it's so unjust for him to pay everything, or even half, I'm going to interpret what he says based upon the exact letter of this note, which says I will help pay half. And the total amount is a couple of $1,000. Half of that would be $1,000. So he's going to help pay half of the $1,000. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $100. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's your responsibility. Deal with it.
I still feel that he's responsible for accepting an identification that did not look anything like her.
She basically committed a crime. We were victims of it.
I wanted the tattoos.
We were a professional operator.
Oh, I thought they would be kind of fierce.